We're back. I know you guys missed us terribly, or some of you may not have missed us at all, but after a brief hiatus, we're back on the airways and in your earways. Welcome into the dungeon of the Doctors of Doom, where I am your host, Alex the Shark Sparks, and joining me, once again, finally all three of the trio back together, is Mitch the Heart Attack Black, and Vinny, I didn't come up with a name with him, Santucci. Say hello to everyone out there in Radioland, fellas.
Hello.
What's up, dudes and dudettes?
Yeah, don't forget the dudettes.
I'm pretty used to a Sparks. I'm pretty used to a Spark introduction that has no nickname or blah blah blah. I'm just glad that things haven't changed in the last 30 years.
Hey now, that's not true. I gave you an introduction. It was a classic, and you said yourself you loved it on that video. So it's been a couple weeks, guys.
I did.
What's been going on in your lives? Tell the people out there what's going on.
Work, and that's it. Not a whole lot.
Just work, travel, and I've done a lot of car shopping recently. So Dakota's car has been in the shop for like 3 weeks, and let me tell you, anybody that needs to do car shopping, it's not fun. It's not fun. Whatever happened to like vehicles that were nice for like 20 grand? I thought if we were spending 40 to 50 grand on a vehicle, it'd be like for a Mercedes, not for a Kia. What's happening? What's going on in the world?
Yeah, what's crazy is with Samantha, whatever, the Uber driver that hit her about 7 months ago, which, by the way, Chris is doing that case. It's turned out to be perfect timings because, like, if she were looking for a car now, it would have been close to 2 times as expensive for the same car. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, it's crazy.
All right,
Chris,
well,
if you're there,
I'm going to go ahead and share my story since you guys were pressing me for it and I didn't want to share it. The reason we've been on hiatus is because your fearless leader, myself, went on this amazing vacation. I was so excited for it. 2 weeks overseas. It's going to be great, right? Going to be great. Well, people that I'm going with, they hit me up and they're like, all right, yeah, we're heading to the airport, but we're flying from different cities because we don't live in the same city. I actually had to drive 7 hours to Charlotte to catch a flight because I use frequent flyer miles. So I don't want to pay for this. I mean, it still costs money, but not nearly as much because I use frequent flyer miles, but it meant driving 7 hours to go to Charlotte instead of flying out of Birmingham. Whole big deal. Whatever. Fly to New York. I get on my plane to London. They're like, yeah, we're heading to the airport now. My plane takes off. When I land in London, I find out the guy going with me got arrested for drugs. So he's not coming. So I ended up there by myself. And well, his girlfriend was coming too because she's the one that's from there and she speaks Polish. Well, she didn't come because her boyfriend got arrested. So, yeah. Yeah, that's what happened.
Where did he get arrested?
That's what happened. And I ended up...
Wait, where did he get arrested again? Where? Sorry?
They were going to the airport, and I don't know if they got pulled over or what. I didn't ask for the whole story. I didn't really care. I just woke up in London with a text once I got service back telling me that I was going to be alone for my 2-week trip. Fun times.
Damn. So wait, who's bringing drugs to London? You can't get. Is it hard to get drugs in London? I don't know. I've never been.
I don't. So I don't even know. I didn't know they were a drug user. I don't know anything about that. I don't know if it was just drugs that were in the car or if it was drugs that were in their suitcase. I don't know any of the details because I didn't ask. Right? Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
So anyway, I found this out after I'd already gotten overseas. Couldn't get a refund. Went to Poland anyway. I tried to enjoy myself. First couple of days it rained and just it was really depressing. Honestly, just being there by myself. I saved up. I used PTO, used a bunch of money, used a bunch of frequent flyer miles to have this trip. Because let's face it, Poland's not a great tourist attraction. That's not somewhere you would normally want to go. There's some stuff there, it's fine, but that's not where you're going to plan a dream trip to. But I was going because I knew people that were going, that knew people there, that knew the location, that knew the language, and we were going to make the most of it. And so that obviously didn't happen, and that just sucked. And I canceled my trip and came back a week early. But yeah, not great. That's why we've been off the air, because I was supposed to be on a dream vacation that ended up being a nightmare. So it was cursed from the start. There were some other things that went wrong, but yeah, it was just cursed from the start.
That's crazy.
Yeah, sorry to hear that. That's tough.
See.
That's
But anyway, let's get back into sports, because that's what this podcast is all about, and no one wants to hear me lament. But you guys were asking, so I figured I would fill you in. Oh, and right when I say that, I switch over to ESPN's website here.
I think it's pretty interesting to think that, like, at least it wasn't a Brittany Griner situation if we wanted to relate it to sports. So I think Mitch was concerned that they got arrested in Poland. But, I think arrested in the States is fine.
See, honestly, like, it would have sucked for them, but it would have been better for me, because then they would have at least been there, and I could have gone and talked to them at jail or something. Like, my issue was just that I was just there by myself. Like, they just, like, look, I'm not saying you can't have a good time by yourself, but, like, it's one thing when you plan a vacation. Like, I'm planning on doing this thing by myself. I'm planning all these events. I've got everything laid out. I didn't even know the itinerary, because they planned everything, because they were the ones so his girlfriend is from there. Her family's from there. She was going to be spending time with her family. They had planned a bunch of stuff, and there were going to be times where they were doing stuff with the family, and me and him were going to go to other stuff. Like, they had it all, like, laid out, because they knew what the schedule was, right? I didn't need to know the schedule, so I didn't care. Maybe that's partly on me for, like, not getting all the info, but I obviously didn't think there was a world where they weren't going to show up. So, yeah.
Little quick funny. Speaking of speaking of crazy funny, I wasn't gonna, but Samantha actually went to Peru for the last 4 days to visit her mom or whatever. Her mom's retired out there, and she was walking. I was like, why isn't she's not texting me back? It's kind of like I don't want to bug her, like, you know what I mean? Like, she's on her little break or whatever. Like, she's not really messaging me at all. Okay, well, I'll leave her alone. No big deal. Turns out, like, right when she got there, some guy on a bike drove by and swiped her phone out of her hand and drove off.
Oh, that sucks.
And I was just like, okay.
No way.
Yeah, I was like, either that's an elaborate story that she didn't want to talk to me for 4 days, or that explains a lot.
Yeah, it's always rough when when someone's, like, in a place like that and you just don't know what's going on, because, like, your brain naturally assumes the worst. Like, oh, well, something horrible's happened, right? Like, and, like, not that having your phone stolen isn't horrible. Like, that sucks, but, like, having your phone stolen or broken is so much better than, like, oh my god, they've been kidnapped by the cartel. You know what I mean? Like, because that's my first thought, right? Like, if my girl goes to South America and all of a sudden I can't get in touch with them, I'm assuming they've been kidnapped by the cartel. That's what's happened. I'm gonna have to go Liam Neeson to get him back. I'm gonna have to go full Taken mode.
Yeah, she's back and saved us. It's all good. There's nothing else. But yeah, I was just, I was like, dang, she really needs a break from me. Well, I'm sorry, Alex, to hear about Poland. That really does.
So funny.
That does blow. So not trying to. I was just thought connected with the traveling story and kind of went a little shitty a little. So I just kind of connected there. So
yeah, I know, but like I said, there were still some cool. Like, I still got to do some cool stuff. I got to go in, like, this. I
saw
the salt mine thing.
Yeah, I witnessed.
Right?
Wait, how did you see that?
You sent me pictures.
I sent you pictures? Oh, maybe I did. I can't remember.
You sent it to us.
Me pictures? Yeah, that's even. Okay, now I just got double insult. I'm just kidding.
No, because full disclosure, I don't enjoy taking pictures. Like, for those mom, if you ever listen to this, I don't think you will. I don't enjoy taking pictures because of my mom. I love my mom to death. She takes a million pictures, but as a result, I've spent a lot of my life not getting to enjoy the moment, having to take pictures. So on this trip, she was asking me a ton to take pictures. And since I was there by myself, I was like, all right, I'll take a bunch of pictures for her. And I did. And I do kind of regret taking as many as I did, because I definitely feel like I missed out on some of the moments, to be honest. But I ended up getting a ton of pictures as a result. And yeah, I was taking them for her. So I guess I sent them to you guys too, because I had them. But yeah. I forgot to share a screen with you. By the way, as soon as I tabbed into ESPN, because this is a sports podcast, I get to see that the Lakers are beating the Mavericks. That's just icing on my crap cake right now. So, because you guys all know how much I love the Lakers and the Mavericks as a fan. Cool.
Well, this is I will say, ever since I turned the Lakers on, it's been like watching an Auburn game where they're up by 20 and now they're not. So it's fun.
Speaking of it, do you guys have any thoughts on the only reason I'm connecting these is, like, everyone's talking about the Lakers versus the Thunder first round, a couple other matchups. The only team I'm worried about is the Nuggets. Like, do you guys have any thoughts on a 4-game losing streak? Fire your head coach who has brought you multiple championships, and I mean that's a high bar.
Yeah, that was one of my topics that I was going to talk about today. So we'll go ahead and get into sports and get off this whole this whole trip thing. But yeah, just one last thing about the trip. It
No,
wasn't.
take
It
as much
was.
as
It
you want.
was
Sorry.
like there were some highlight. There were some good points. Like it's not that it was like the worst thing ever, but just it didn't go the way I wanted it to, and it's unfortunate. But hopefully in the future I can have a better one. Hopefully Samantha can have a better trip in the future for her as well. All right, moving on. So what Mitchell is referencing is a couple of days ago, the Denver Nuggets fired their head coach Mike Malone as well as their GM. Now there's been some beef going on between the coach and the GM, which has been kind of public. But it's really shocking that they fired both of them as opposed to just one of them. A couple reasons it's shocking. One is there's only a week left of the regular season. Two, they're in fourth place in the West, so they're like posed to compete. 2 years ago, they won the championship. So, it's just it's wild the timing of that. So yeah, it's kind of, and also, so just for those that don't know, it's like it's really weird to fire a coach who's winning. Like they were on a slight losing streak, I suppose, but that's because one of their star players is like out on injury and is planning on coming back soon. So like I don't know, this is weird.
I would be shocked
Yeah,
if they did something like that to a Laker head coach or anything. Sorry, Vinny, go on.
no. I was just gonna say like I don't know. It's one of those kind of superstar moments where I don't think that they can do this without Jokic signing off at this point. And I'm not like a huge you got to run everything by your star, but how on the heels of a championship, come back and then fire your coach going into the playoffs. You're a 4 seed. Like if I'm Jokic, I'm like, all right, that's it. I'm not re-signing with Denver. I'm going somewhere else. If like this wasn't a plan, like let's just say he's a Mike Malone fan. I don't know. That's like a franchise altering move if your superstar is not on board.
Well, that's why
And I am not
that's why he's got to be on
about.
board, right?
He's got to be on board.
Right.
I don't think there's a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's
basically,
the
Jokic
timing
got
of it is
Mike
what's so
Malone.
weird to me because like what could have gotten so bad that right now you're like, we're just gonna fire both of you right now. You know what I mean? Like what was this internal beef? Like, does anyone know what the beef was between the two, the
Nope.
coach and the GM?
Nope.
There's some speculation out there that I saw online that says a lot of it actually has to do with Michael Malone's refusal to play younger players and play instead starting veterans that he doesn't feel like are developing. So they actually like singled out Russell Westbrook and just said he's been on a terrible streak of games like over the last couple or last few, which is also hilarious to think that Russell Westbrook has somehow, as like somebody who's so talented, potentially ruined like two franchises' immediate futures back to back. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I think there's some beef over who they think they want playing versus who's actually being played while also losing. Winning fixes everything, right?
Right.
Yeah, for
But
sure. But I mean, like I said, that yes, they have been losing the last like few games, but they've got a star who's out on injury, like who's expected to be back for the playoffs. Like I feel like most people would understand, like, yeah, you rest your star so he can be healthy for the playoffs. We don't need him for this run, especially in the NBA league, which I call the everyone gets a trophy league, where you don't need to have a positive record to make the playoffs. More than half the league makes the playoffs, and they're comfortably in fourth place in the West. So.
Speaking of,
Okay.
I mean, have you looked? I think we're back to when was this? I feel like I haven't really followed the exact standings in a while. I want to say like in the early 2000s, where like the West was just so much better than the East. Have you seen like the Lakers are what 48 and 31, and there's only 2 games separating seeds 3 through 8. Like, and if you look at the East, it's absolute horse trash. Like, there's like 4 good teams, and the rest of them are like barely above 500. Most of their play-in teams are going to be below 500. It's crazy. But the West is just so good
So I think
again.
it was actually that way for a while. So like first it was the West was completely stacked in the early 2000s, but then LeBron basically killed the East for a whole decade. Like no one's gonna go out East to because it's in the road through the finals. People don't realize LeBron made the finals for half of his career. I think it's like 12 times or something like that. He made it like 8 straight times out there. So I think also it was from the Lakers and Spurs dominant years where the West was stacked, and then up until like 2007, 2008, once LeBron established himself on that super team in Miami closer to 2010, no one, because like it was just the Celtics. The Celtics were having a good time. The Pistons were relevant and sprinkled in there. But really, it's only been two franchises besides the Heat in the last, back to the Celtics again now. So it's like I think it's just kind of I don't it's been that way for I don't know why. The East just cannot get good in basketball over the last 20 years. Well, and it's also
Yeah,
unfair
I
to
mean they
say
have
that
like the
when
dominant teams,
yeah,
obviously, but
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I do want to point out one more thing about the coach firing. So, of the last 6 NBA champions, 4 of them have moved on for from their coaches, which I think is really
oh,
telling about how fickle the
Cyclical.
coaching
Yeah.
position is in the NBA. Because like you've got guys who hang on to their jobs for forever in other leagues. Like look at Mike Tomlin and the Steelers job. Now look, I'm not knocking Mike Tomlin. He's had nothing but winning records, which is crazy. But like they haven't really been like playoff contention in a while. But because he's got those chips, like he's there. He's still going strong, right? Like whereas in the NBA, and do you guys know who the 2 coaches are that still have their job that have won chips in the last 6 years?
Uh, uh, Pop. No,
ooh,
no, no.
Yep, you had the first one,
Andy
Popovich,
Reid
Yeah,
and
and then
and and
Spoelstra,
Nick Sirianni.
Kerr.
Kerr.
Yeah.
Duh, should have been called. It's Kerr,
Yeah,
not
so Pops and
Spoelstra.
Kerr, who are like 2 dynasties, right?
Oh, in basketball.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm talking about basketball. Yeah, all the other teams that have won in the last 6 years have moved on from their head coach.
I think it's so hard. I couldn't imagine, like, especially when I get older. Like, could you imagine coaching a room full of players where it's like that guy makes 80 million, that guy makes 42 million a year, that guy makes 30 million a year. This guy doesn't even play that much and he makes 22 million a year. And it's like I'm over here and I make one or two. Like, I feel like a lot of these players, maybe I don't know, but like I feel like you wouldn't really listen to your coach. It's like I don't know. Maybe it's just you get tired of hearing the same speeches, or I don't know what it is, but maybe it's the money pay. But yeah, it's crazy that basketball just rotates their coaches that fast. I just don't understand how or why. Like Phil Jackson was like from a Lakers fan, like we had Phil Jackson, we lost him for a little bit, and for 5 years we begged for Phil to come back. Like we only wanted Phil. Like that's like we didn't want Greg Brown, Mike Brown or whatever. We didn't want, Rudy Tomjanovich and all these guys. Like just go away and bring us Phil back. Phil comes back and we win more championships. It's like such an opposite mentality of what we have now, where it's like, oh, your coach is in your way. Where it's like no, for the Lakers mentality for a long time, the coach was the way. So yeah,
Right.
it's shocking to me.
Yeah. Yeah, or what was, even if you don't like the coach, is like the Grizzlies firing their coach after like actually turning that franchise around and being successful. The Kings made a playoff and then fired, their coach. I just don't get it. It's in a win now league, apparently, with teams that are actually winning for the first time ever. I just don't understand why they just close that door so fast.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
But
Do,
this
do
is
you
probably one
think
of the
as
craziest coach firings.
Yeah, I mean this one's wild. Obviously, there's clearly something going on behind the scenes that we're not privy to. Like because I mean, or it's just another ownership GM combination, whatever lost their mind, kind of like with the Luka trade, right? Could be a situation like that where somebody just doesn't know how to manage a team. Um, but yeah, do you guys think as fans? So like as a fan, what do you think about the whole coaching carousel? If you were the fan of it, not this situation, because this situation is obviously a little crazy, but like if you were the fan of a team who 3 years ago won a chip and they moved on from their coach, are you cool with the cycling the coaches so quickly, or do you want to give them more of a chance to rebuild when things go on the snide?
For me personally, if the coach should want, it depends on. I guess it depends on the narrative. Like what is he done. That's what I'm saying. Is like, what is the Denver's head coach done to really deserve it? It's just kind of, I think it'd be circumstantial, but no.
Well, he's
Generally,
the, he's
if
the
you win a champ,
winningest coach in their franchise's history, right? So
that's what I'm
for
saying. So it's
context.
like generally no. So like yeah, if you've been proven that you can win in this city, then why would we not keep you? Like it's just like so like let's say the Lakers win a championship in the year next year too with our new head coach, the younger guy, Reddick or whatever. So like
Reading.
yeah, thank you. So it's like there's no way he leaves in a couple of years. So I just don't. I don't know. It just it's also like who are you gonna go get out there? It's just like a new message, new someone saying something, so the message will be received by the players. I don't understand. Is there someone that's a better coach than him? That's tough for you to sell that argument. So all the above, it would have to be something personal or like an image reason. But no, the answer is no. I would not. I would not be happy.
All right. Well, moving on then.
I don't
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
understand basketball coaching kind of confuses me anyways. Like it just seems so random and obscure to me from like dude, the amount of jobs like good jobs that Mike D'Antoni got after like helping the Suns, but then everything fell apart. Dude got some amazing coaching gigs just like off of like a successful run with the Suns, and he never did anything for these other franchises. Or like Mike Brown, the amount of times that Mike Brown has got a head coach, I just don't understand this coaching carousel. In the NFL, washed up coaches just if they get a second chance, it's after they've gone and they've been a coordinator for a really long time. In the NBA, they're like, "Oh, you
That's
are the
a good
12th team
point.
in the East. Why don't you come and coach our fifth team in the West?" And I'm like, "What the hell? Like that makes zero sense to me." Like I think NBA needs like fresh face coaching, and they just keep recycling from the same pool over and over and over again, and they just operate on a different wavelength apparently.
Yeah, it's also different too. It's like there's no like offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator in basketball because it's like a lot of these offensive coordinators get really good opportunities really young because they have like a fresh new mind, blah blah blah. Like they have a new system or a new design. There's that doesn't exist in the NBA for some reason. It's like there's no like you know what I mean? Like I know JJ Redick is the anomaly, but like you're right, Vinny. What you're saying is they just keep putting the same coaches. It's never different coaches. Where in the NFL, it's like, oh, they got the new coordinator, or the Shanahan has to step down because the new upcoming guru that they have, he wants to keep and promote some offensive coordinator. Like that kind of stuff just doesn't happen in the NBA. I don't know. There's no like tactical. I think it's more of like managing grown ass millionaires. Sorry for my language, but yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah, it
By the
is
way,
strange. I
Alex, to
mean,
rub salt in the wound here,
okay, what are we rubbing salt in the wound?
just the fact that the entire Dallas Mavericks arena is cheering for Doncic every time he hits a three. So
Oh, I would be too, man. I'd be cheering for him too. No, look, well, I mean, so it's kind of ironic, right? So the only way you can really get your message heard is to vote with your wallet, right? So like now they're obviously not voting with their wallet because they bought tickets to the game, unless they only bought tickets to the game because it's Luka. Like that'd be interesting to see like what attendance has been on the last few games and then attendance of this game because Luka's playing. That would be interesting to see. But yeah, no, that was just a boneheaded move. Even if years from now it is somehow proven that moving on from Luka was better for the team as far as a winning standpoint moving forward, which I don't believe that's ever going to happen. But let's say over the next 3 years the Dallas Mavericks become a much better winning team and Luka falls off the face of the earth. It would still have been the wrong move because of what it did to your fan base and what it did to potential free agents wanting to come there. Like this will never be a good basketball move. We've already talked about this, so I don't want to beat that dead horse. But yeah, as we look at the standings here, I can't help but notice that the Dallas Mavericks, a team that lost in the NBA Finals last season, are now in 10th place in the West, whereas the Lakers
High
are in
up.
third. So, well, when there's only 15 teams,
10th is pretty high up for them. That's pretty good. Good job, Dallas.
oh, so funny.
jeez.
Dude, yeah, and for Anthony Davis too, and I just read a really good article about how not only was it a bad trade, but they definitely screwed the pooch on like who they got
Oh, 100%.
uh, because Austin Reeves has been going ham over the last like 2 months, and like you didn't even get Austin Reeves, who
they didn't even get Dalton Connect.
Like you got nobody. You got Anthony Davis in a single first round pick, and Davis is the same dude he's always been. He's good one night, terrible another night. He's probably one of the worst superstars in professional sports, in my opinion. And I think he's super talented, but superstars do not disappear every other game. It just doesn't happen, and AD disappears regularly. It's crazy.
Sure, I think it was I can't remember who was on the show, but he said the best comparison is like Bill Walton. It's like he's so good, like top 5 player in the NBA, but just never played, just never. And people get angry at him for that. It's like people loved Bill Walton because of the personality he had, but Anthony Davis doesn't have the personality that Bill has, so it's just a lot of hate instead of he gets a pass. And if Davis, to his defense, the show was saying was like he expected probably to retire as a Laker, where he had won a championship, so he was going to get the pass the rest of his career. But now he's in a new city where he hasn't won a championship. He's not going to get the pass of not playing, because it's like in LA he could have probably played that way for the next couple of years, and we'd all been like, whatever, who cares? It'd been fine. But yeah, so he got really kind of. So yeah, that's going to go down as an all-time fun times for the Lakers.
Yeah, that's just wild. Anyway, we'll keep it around with basketball. We're going to move on to a sore subject for Vinny and I, college hoops. For those who don't know, Vinny and I are Auburn fans. Auburn was the #1 team in the country in basketball during the regular season and made it to the Final Four. And in the Final Four, we were killing it, up by 8 at the half, and then we turned into Auburn, and we don't do anything. We don't make anything easy. We always make it hard on the fans, hard on our hearts, and we just couldn't get it together in the second half offensively, and ended up losing to the eventual champions, Florida. Obviously a heartbreaker, but a couple of things about Vinny, did you have any comments you wanted to make on the Auburn game itself? And then B, what do you guys think of the actual championship game between Florida and Houston? Dad and I watched that one together. He was here. Houston had a massive lead, and then Florida made a huge comeback in that game as well. I mean, Florida is just the cardiac cats when it comes to comebacks. But I think the real question is, for both the Auburn game and the Houston game, did Florida win it, or did the opposition lose it? So did Auburn and Houston choke it away, or did Florida win it?
Okay, I do think that Florida got Auburn at their worst. I thought we didn't. I honestly, for the first time, I didn't think we were coached very well. I mean, I was texting you guys throughout the game, like, why is Janiyah still in there? Like, he's exhausted. Like, what are we doing? It was just a weird game to watch. But I don't think Florida played particularly well either. So I think Florida did, in fact, win that game. By the way, if anybody watched. I don't know how an NBA team watches Auburn versus Florida, and because I instantly went to NBA forums and stuff, and apparently Walter Clayton Jr. is not even projected to go in the first round because of his size and his age. That boy looked like that dude was Steph Curry out on the floor. It was insane. If he touched the ball, I was like yelling at the TV because it was going in every single time. Like it was. But he's the only one that really played well for Florida that game. He kind of carried that team. But I do think Florida won. But on the flip side, Houston, there's no way you don't say that Houston lost that game in the national championship. I mean, they choked away a huge late lead.
4 turnovers in the last 4 possessions.
And then, yeah, I mean, all they had to do is hold on to the ball. I mean, you don't even just don't turn it over. And then people aren't even talking about the fact that you didn't get that last shot off. So I agree. I do think Florida, I mean, I picked them to win in most of my brackets because I do think they were the best team in the country going into the tournament. So I think they are deserving champion, but Houston blew the national championship.
Yeah, as far as Walter Clayton Jr., I mean, it felt like I was watching someone play NBA hang time when someone's lighting it up and on fire, and when the ball's on fire and you can't miss. That's what it felt like with him, because he would just shoot floaters going away from people that just super low percentage shots and just nothing but net. Although I do think Auburn just didn't know how to guard him because he's just a small guy running fast and they couldn't do anything about it. Whereas Houston shut him down, so that's why he's probably not projected to go that highly. He scored 0 points in the game against Houston in the first half, he did not take a shot for the last, I think, 12 minutes of the first half. That's how much they'd shut him down. Like, so he's pretty easy to scheme against, feels like, when you actually try to. Now he did make some plays in the second half, and he definitely made some big plays defensively, and he had a bunch of assists. So I'm not knocking his ability. I'm just saying, like, I don't think he's I think he's easy enough to stop as a scorer because of his size, as you mentioned. Speaking of going to the NBA, so Auburn's going to lose everything because most of our seniors obviously are seniors. And then our freshman star, Pettiford, he's declared for the NBA draft. So
did he really? Good for him.
He did, and then
good for him.
And then Auburn's coach, Bruce Pearl, and I know you guys know this, but I'm saying it for the listeners. The coach tweeted, good on you, man. Go get drafted in the first round, but if not, then come back and let's run it back. So Bruce is trying to put it in his head that if you're not a first-round draft pick, come back to school and let's run it back.
For sure. That's what I would be saying too. It's interesting to me to know, like Vinny said, like they didn't get their best game or not, or it's kind of interesting because like I don't really watch it during the year, so I don't really know what looks like their best game. But for me, it did look like Auburn was the better team. The Florida Duke game, the Duke game where they cost it up, and at the end, I know that was bad, and they probably win that game. So them winning the national title is kind of interesting, but. 9 out of 10 times, I think Duke wins that game as well. The thing is, like, what's interesting for me is the guy for Duke, the Flagstaff Cooper, whatever his name is. If this was 10 years ago, most of the one and dones were playing only against 20-year-old men. Like, this kid apparently left high school early before the new rules happened because he wants to be part of player bargaining agreement or whatever. So he's apparently like 16, not even like close to like an 18-year-old. Apparently he just like turned 17, and he's playing against 23, 24-year-old men in an NCAA tournament. I think he's going to be more NBA ready than a lot of pros that we've seen in the last, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years. Like this guy left early while it's the opposite going on. Everyone's NIL changing, extending their up to like 24, 25, 26-year-old guys in there. And I thought that was one of the most impressive things I've seen. Because, like, I'm trying to remember back when I watched Durant at Texas, when I watched Zion at Duke, and, like, all these big names that are coming out. And, all the way up to, like, Brandon Ingram anyways. Like, I don't think I've seen such an imposing player. I mean, like, I know Tyler Hansborough is great for North Carolina, and like a lot of these, Joakim Noah, these guys from Florida who didn't end up panning out great, and they looked like world beaters, but they were there at school 4 or 5 years. Like Joakim Noah was 22 years old, 23 years old, winning that back-to-back national title for Florida. Like this kid is 16, 17. I think I couldn't help but watch him. He's fascinating.
Yeah, well, I mean, that kind of brings up, you talk about the older people. Well, I mean, yeah, that's kind of the issue with not the NIL. People need to stop knocking the NIL. There's nothing wrong with NIL. People should get paid for their name. If you're going to make money off their name, then they should be able to get paid for it. End of discussion. I'm not, like, that's just, I think it's crazy people hate the NIL. The problem is the transfer portal. The problem is there were guys who literally in the middle of the tournament, once their team got eliminated, transferred to another team that was still playing in the tournament. Like, literally while the tournament's still happening. Like, obviously they couldn't join the team and play, but there's a guy from like New Mexico State who transferred through the transfer portal to UCLA in the middle of March Madness. Now, he obviously couldn't play for UCLA in that tournament, but it's like there was a day between New Mexico State getting eliminated and UCLA's next game. They shouldn't have had time to sign a player. That's kind of garbage, but yeah, it's kind of killing. It's kind of killing the mid-major. This is only the second time that all 4 number 1 seeds made the Final Four, and it's because that's kind of going to be happening from now on, because used to what would happen is these smaller mid-major schools would be the team that had all the seniors. They had guys that came in and developed and played together. Then you'd have these Cinderella stories of a Villanova that's got 7 seniors on the roster that are all clicking and playing well and make a deep run, whereas now, when those freshmen go to Villanova and by their sophomore year get better and junior year get better, they're transferring to other schools. And they're transferring to schools that give them more money and whatnot through the transfer portal. So I think, unfortunately, I don't know that March Madness is ever going to be the same. Look, this is only 1 year, so it's in a vacuum. But I think the more prominent transfer portal becomes, the less likely we are to get the fun Cinderellas, and the more likely we are just to have chalk, which is just not as fun. Like, it's great seeing the best teams play. I'm not saying it's not fun to see the best teams play, but I'd like to have at least one or two Cinderellas make a run because that's just fun.
I think it'll correct itself. So, like, Calipari, I know he's like the epitome of this with the one and dones and this whole philosophy changing and everything. But like he was saying earlier, it's like well, first let me go back to the NIL thing. The NIL thing is not a problem. The problem with the NIL is in conjunction with the eligibility rules. So before, with the eligibility rules were the same and there was no one being paid, it didn't matter. You either went overseas or you tried to make the G League. So you were out already of that college system by 19, 20, 21 years old, because there's no reason for you to stay around when you can make a paycheck on it. But the NIL allowed the paycheck to be like basically subsidized to the college players, where like you can make more money at your university in the collective as opposed to having to force it overseas or the G League or other options. So now, since you can actually have that financial opportunity, they're abusing the eligibility rules. So NIL is not a problem, but NIL with the conjunction of the eligibility rules is the problem. They need to change the eligibility rules. I don't even really care about the portal, because the problem with me is, like, every time a coach changes teams, no one ever talks about those kids who declared, you came in my living room, you talked to my mother, and you recruited me. Now you're leaving to a different school. No one ever talks about that. So I don't really care about the portal, to be honest with you. They need to change the eligibility rules. If you want to switch schools as many times as you want in 2-3 years, that's fine. But you're still 21 years old and you're out of college basketball by then. You're not 25 years old playing college basketball. On the flip side is, the Calipari said they're never going to recruit anymore out of living rooms to moms anymore. Instead, they're going to let locally the areas recruit those players, and then they're just going to take them in the portal after a year, because you're already going to go up against 25-year-old grown men with the way the eligibility rules are. They don't want the 19 one and done. Rutgers had 2 of the top 5 picks in the draft coming up one and dones, and they didn't even make a 68 tournament person field. So like what it comes down to a lot of times is like, there might be Cinderella stories because these local teams are actually going to have a chance at these stars that normally would have been one and done at Duke, but they're going to get recruited locally, and then they're going to get picked apart in the transfer portal to the higher schools. They're no longer, Calipari said, the days of going into the mom living room and recruiting are done. You don't have to do that anymore. The local teams will do it. You'll just pick up off the local teams. So there might be a Cinderella story that makes it for a year, but then they won't be good again because that team will get gutted in the portal. So again, the portal, I'm fine with the portal. I'm fine with the NIL. The eligibility rules with the new landscape of college basketball has to change. You cannot have these guys going, oh, I hurt my back after already playing college basketball for 2 years. And then that gives them a year eligibility plus the COVID stuff that happened. Some of these guys are legit should have been already in the G League or overseas playing basketball for 4 or 5 years, from the age 20, 21 to 24. They should have already been playing professional basketball. But because of the NIL, they're just staying and abusing it. So that's, I don't know. It's college basketball's in a weird spot right now. I'm obviously not a pro on it. I just listen to what the shows and experts say and regurgitate it back. But like, it's in a weird state of limbo right now, especially with the conference changings and all that kind of stuff. It's fun. It's fun to follow.
Yeah, I mean, it's always going to be cyclical and up and down. Like that, I do think part of it is an overreaction to just this year, but I do think that there is some truth to that. I don't think it's ever going to be the same with the Cinderellas. And to your point about eligibility, I don't think the issue is. I mean, yes, eligibility is a little wonky for sure, but that's not the big issue. The big issue is just like, for the longest time, you could never transfer schools ever. Then they opened Pandora's box and made it you could transfer anytime for any reason. They should have just made it simple. You can only transfer if there is a specific event. I mean, just the same way you can only, make change to your employment benefits or your life insurance and stuff if there's a life-changing event. Like, it's real simple. The guy that came into your living room and recruited you, he's moved to another school. You should be able to move to another school too. Totally understandable. You got recruited by, Calipari, and then Calipari left. You get to go somewhere else if you want to too. No problem with that. You came in wanting to play basketball, wanting to be a starter, and you got hurt, and as a result of you getting hurt, they recruited someone else, and now you're not a starter. You've lost your starting job. You can transfer. Totally understandable. Like, there are reasons you can transfer. The problem is it shouldn't be, I played well, so I'm going to leave. Like, no, that's not how it works.
It's like free agency without even the rules of free agency.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Exactly.
Like, they just get to leave for like zero reason. like you said, like if you're gonna pay, if we're gonna allow them to pay, then there needs to be a contract in place, just like any other sport. Like
Yeah.
we can decide to trade you or be reimbursed financially for it. So maybe like the process is buyouts from other universities. But if people are going to pay $5 million for a college player to go there, you can't just like. Could you imagine if all of a sudden, like,
Well, there's no
I guess
contracts right now
Alex, we can
even
use the
for
Raiders. We can use the
yeah.
Raiders. We can use the Raiders as an example. Could you imagine if any team in the NFL could just approach Max Crosby and be like, "Yo, we're just gonna. I know you're under contract, but we'll give you $50 million to come play for us instead." And if that team, if it operated in the same fashion, if that team was like the freaking Philadelphia Eagles, he'd be like, "Okay, great." And then halfway through the season, he'd be like, "Yo, sorry guys, I'm gone." You know, like you just can't have that in
And in your
sports.
example, there's no salary cap, right? Because there's no NIL cap. You know what I mean? Like
There
the
is
cap
no
is just
cap. That's the problem too. Yeah,
the
that's a
cap
huge
is just
problem.
how much money these major businesses. Which I've said for years and years now that college is just big business, and it is, and this shows it even more. I think another thing that would help, like you can't close Pandora's box, unfortunately, so they kind of made the mistake of opening it. Make it where there's limits on where you can transfer. Like for example, you can't transfer within conference. That would at least help, right? Like that way that the guy that balls out at North Carolina State can't go to Duke, right? So like at least you don't have to see them in the same conference, because that's a real kick in the pants to fans. Like a guy you cheered for all last season and is now on like now goes to this other school because they're a more prominent basketball school, and now you have to watch him play against you a bunch of times. So
Yeah.
I think something as simple as like, hey, yeah, if you're going to transfer, you can't transfer in conference, because that doesn't hurt the people who are looking to make more money, who the guys who out of high school they weren't highly recruited, so they go to a really small school, they ball out and then get to transfer to a big school. I get that, they want to live their dream, they want to make their money. Okay, cool. But what it does stop is the guys who go to some like the SEC this year had a bunch of great teams. Some guy goes and balls out at Ole Miss, and Ole Miss is I think a sixth seed in the tournament, and then he's like, yeah, hey, this is great, but I'm gonna move on and go to Alabama because they were a 2 seed. It's like, well, that's not cool. Like they're in the same conference, they shouldn't have to deal with that. Like if you're not gonna be loyal, you can't at least be in conference. So I don't know. Kind of like you normally wouldn't trade someone within your same conference in the NBA. You'd always trade it to the East. You're in the West. Oh wait, Mavericks, you traded a team in the West. Sorry, back to Luca.
Wait, since there was a small segue, I just realized, Mitch, I have been rooting for the Lakers to finish as a 2 or 3 seed all year to avoid Oklahoma
Denver.
City and the Nuggets in the first round.
It's just
Bro,
Denver,
the Nuggets
yeah,
are the Nuggets are 5th place in the West, and what could you imagine if the Lakers lock up the 3 seed and they play the Nuggets in the first round of the playoffs? Oh my god!
No, honestly, it's just,
I'll
I
quit
don't think
basketball at that point.
anyone who's not been paying attention to basketball, if they pick anyone but the Nuggets.
Yeah, dude. Yeah,
Well, I mean, the
I
Nuggets
would
got some
take the
turmoil
Oka-
going
I
on
would
right
take the-
now, so
I would take the OKC's youth and their solidarity right now over the Nuggets firing their coach and their turmoil. The Nuggets are the scariest and will always be the scariest. Jokic is the most undervalued. Like I know I said this about Mahomes, so I might be a broken record here, but like Jokic is the most undervalued player in sports besides maybe Mahomes. So
Okay, I would love. I know if there's other topics, great. I would love, because this is something I wanted to discuss. Is there a world where, and don't get me wrong, I think SGA, Gilgeous Alexander, has had a phenomenal year, is deserving of an MVP award any year outside of a year where Jokic is doing what he's doing. I do not see, if he doesn't win MVP this year, dude, his stats are unreal. The dude just had a 60-point triple double. Nobody's ever done that before. He's on pace to be the first NBA player ever to finish in the top 3 in assists, rebounds, and points per game. And they're actually like the odds-on favorite for MVP heavily is SGA because they're the number 1 seed and he's having a great year. Dude, Mitch, Jokic is the most underrated superstar in all of sports. The guy is probably one of the best basketball players of all time if he can continue to do this just for a few more years.
also, if you look amongst just like
Man,
bigs or whatever,
wild.
yeah, it's wild. If you segregate it out and never look at like the next gen stats, which I probably look at once or twice a year, so it's not like I follow it, but like if you look at like just amongst bigs, he's like number one in everything. So it's like, oh, Jokic's defense is a little bit of a liability, whatever. And then it's like amongst bigs, he's got like the best defense, the best rebounding, the best passing. It's crazy. So like everyone's comparing like his defense to like elite guards or whatever, you know, like these small forwards who can guard like a Kawhi or something. It's crazy. No, yeah, it's Jokic is the answer. Like you just anyone else, please. If someone else wants to, if the Mavs want to somehow beat the Nuggets again, please let it happen. Anyone but the Nuggets, I'll take in the playoffs. Anyone. And also to comment about the Shane Gillis Alexander thing, it's kind of like it reminds me. I mean, I wasn't alive during this time, but Barkley won MVPs in the '90s, so it's like, well, Jordan was there. How did Jordan not win all those MVPs in the '90s? And then same with when I was actually alive during the Kobe years, it's like a lot like Nash won a couple, like Dirk won one, like a couple. They spread it out. Like Derrick Rose won one later. Like you realize Kobe's in the league still, right? So it's like, and Kobe only got one MVP his whole career. And same with after that, even from 2010, or sorry, 2012 to 2018, LeBron James is in the NBA Finals, single-handedly carries them past the Warriors down 3-1 in the series, and he wins 0 MVPs during that time. People forget LeBron hasn't won an MVP in over 14 years, 15 years. So, like, LeBron's the best player, Kobe's the best player, Jordan's the best player, but other people won MVPs during those times. I think that's what's happening with Shane Gillis Alexander. Like, it's just the way it is, I guess.
I guess. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
yeah, the fact that LeBron hasn't won in 14 years an MVP and Kobe won one in his career is probably the wildest thing.
Well, but I mean, the MVP voting in the NBA is so biased. Like, there have literally been seasons where like they didn't want to vote for someone because they won it like before, like this other guy out. You know, it's just, I don't know. It's not as legitimate as it could be. Like, I'm not saying that people aren't like good that win the MVP, but there have definitely been years where someone else has deserved it, but they're like, this is a better story. Kind of like Mark Ingram's Pity Heisman. Like, I'm sorry, anyone who watched college football that season, if you think Mark Ingram deserved the Heisman, you are crazy. All right, but it was a Pity Heisman. It was a better story. Bama had never had one. They were in the middle of that run, with Saban, and so they gave him the Pity Heisman because they never had one, and he didn't deserve it. Well, same with NBA MVP voting. Like, there have been, and I'm not saying that there have never been Bama players who have deserved it. There have been. Like, just not, he wasn't one of them. Same way with NBA MVP voting, there'll be someone who like deserves it. Like you mentioned, LeBron hadn't won in 14 years. There have been years in the past 14 seasons where LeBron was the MVP and deserved the votes, but he just didn't get them because they didn't want him to have it again.
Yep. That's what's going to be with Jokic this year. They just don't want Jokic to have another one.
yeah, it really is crazy. The fact that it. I mean, yeah, dude. I just can't imagine other sports being like that. It's going to happen again. And I get that there's like a voter burnout. Eventually, you just can't give it to like the same guy like 4 or 5, 6 times. But I mean, that's like the same argument. Like if Shohei Ohtani returns to pitching and pitches at the same caliber and finishes in the top 5,
I asked you guys that question, right? How many
top 5
MVPs
and
in the next
everything.
5 years?
Like,
yeah.
Just give him all 10. I don't care. Give him 10 years in a row. There's no burnout. Give it to the person that deserves it. It's not a pity award. If you're not the best, you're not the best. Did
I not ask you that question in a text? I think I said, how many years over the next 5 years does Ohtani win? It should be all 5 if he does that. But mark my words, it's in professional business, entertainment business. They want new stories. Imagine you were a writer for a major outlet like Los Angeles Times or whatever, Boston Globe or whatever, and it's like, oh, you're gonna write the same story. No one's gonna read your stuff. But if you got a new story, new player, it's just The only other thing that kind of reminds me of this playoffs, Vinny, is back when the Lakers were dominant with Shaq. We didn't care. We didn't want to be a 1 seed. But a lot of those championship years, we were like a 3-4 seed. Like only 1 year did we go like 16-0 in the playoffs and we're the 1 seed. But or 16-1, sorry. And it was like a lot of times we would like rest Shaq halfway through the season. Like we'd use the regular season for Shaq to get in shape, and a lot of times we'd end up being like the 3rd or 4th seed. A lot of times, and we'd have to play the Spurs or even the Kings Game 7 in their place. That's how it feels right now with the Nuggets. Like in a 7-game series, and you have Joker. I don't care what your records were in the regular game season. Here comes the big man, and he's going to put you on your butt. So that's how it feels. It's just please. And it's the only reason why I kind of hope, Luka was still with the Mavs is maybe the Mavs were going to beat the Nuggets again this year, and then the Lakers with Anthony could actually beat the Mavs and get into a finals. So the only team that could beat the Nuggets really in the West in the last three is just got dismantled. So it's anyone but the Nuggets, please. Anyone but the Nuggets.
So here, offensive leaders, Jokic. Defensive leaders, Jokic. Assist, Jokic. Steals, Jokic. Yeah, he's on quite a few lists here, guys.
That's what I'm saying. He's the big man coming in that everyone needs to fear. He's the real deal.
Yeah, and everybody. I mean, I get it. Oklahoma City is like 64-14. Like they're having an absolutely incredible season. Like somebody needs to get rewarded for that. I guess that SGA is the second best player in the NBA, but it's like not even close to being.
I don't even think he is the best. I think the
gap. I think the gap between SGA and Jokic this year is further than the gap between SGA and whoever you're going to put in third. Like it's just Jokic is just having that good of a year. It's just crazy. It's crazy. But I will say another stat that I did not know because I just did not respect Oklahoma City Thunder's game. Do you know what their record was against the Eastern Conference this year?
No.
29 wins, 1 loss against the entire Eastern Conference.
Yeah, so what you're saying is if they make it to the NBA Finals, it's chalk it up. It's a guaranteed dub, is what you're saying?
No, the Celtics could actually. The Celtics could actually beat some of the teams in the West for sure.
Yeah, they're 36-13 in conference, which means by default only one of their losses is out of conference. 29-1. Oh man.
Yeah. It's truly
that's
back
how
to
I found out
days,
too. Actually, Alex, I was looking at the thing. Yeah, and I actually want to see who their loss was against. I don't think it was the Celtics. I'm trying to figure out the only loss against the Cavs. Cleveland Cavs is their only loss this year and against the Eastern Conference team. 29-1. The previous record was 27-3, held by the 2000 Lakers, the 2006-2007 Mavs, and the 2015 Warriors. 27-3, and the Thunder just went 29-1. I saw that because I saw their record against the Western Conference because I was looking at tiebreakers, and I was like, wait, dude, the math ain't mathing. They have 13 Western Conference losses, but only 14 total. And sure enough, they're 29-1 against the Eastern Conference. That's just crazy.
But this is what I mean by the everyone gets a trophy league, because right now the Atlanta Hawks going to the playoffs most likely. 37 wins, 42 losses.
This might be a little bit wild, but I don't think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Vinny, I know you're saying that the difference between 1 and 2 is not even close, but I don't think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is even top 5. So I think he's just I just think he's the best player on the best team right now. And a lot of times that gets you an MVP in the NBA for some reason. I honestly don't even think he's better than obviously Jokic, Giannis, Tatum. I don't think he's even better than the guy in Minnesota, who I like a lot,
Anthony Edwards.
Yeah, I don't even think he's better than the guy in Atlanta, who I like a lot, Young.
So I mean, I highly disagree with Trae Young, but that's okay.
It's crazy how much luck comes into play.
I do think.
Oh, go ahead.
Well,
no, I was just gonna say I think SGA from a season standpoint is having the second best season. I do not think he's the second best player.
Yeah, because are you?
I don't think you play
like
SGA Yeah, and I could be ignorant. I don't have to play against him, but I don't think a team walks in and is like, "Oh my god, I got to play SGA tonight." Like the same way they're like, "Oh my god, I got to play Luka, I got to play Jokic, I got to play Tatum." Like SGA, even if he could score 50 points, doesn't. I mean, he's just a drive and dish kind of guy, and with an excellent mid-range game. That'd be like being scared of Tony Parker, you know? I just don't get it.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say it's crazy how much luck comes into play. Like, look at the Miami Heat. They average more points than their opposition, and they're 7 games below 500. Like, that sucks. Like, you know what I mean? Same with there's another team in the East too. The Kings, they're 1 game below 500, and they average more points than they're like that. I mean, that one's at least more on average. But man, being 7 games back when you outscore your opponents on average, that's rough. That's a rough break for the Heat. Anyway, a couple more things that we got to talk about before we run out of time here. So we are primarily a fantasy football podcast, so I will talk about the huge breaking football news. I texted you guys about this. Our combo blew up. We can't believe it happened, and I'm so sorry to report if you haven't heard yet, but super fantasy relevant player from the last couple of years, Julio Jones, has announced his retirement from the National Football League. I know it was devastating to me because last year he played so well for the. Not gonna lie to you guys, I didn't know he was still in the league when he announced his retirement this week. So that caught me off guard. To be honest, I thought he already had. Not to throw shade at Julio, he was great in his time, but yeah, I legit did not know he was still playing. So I was shocked by the news that he retired. Not that he was retiring, that he was still actually playing in the first place.
Yeah, dude. I had no clue where you're going with that for a second. Honestly, and this is definitely an exaggeration, but like getting the breaking news that Julio Jones was retiring from the NFL, at that point I was like, did T.O. ever retire? Like, are we about to get like a T.O. I'm retiring? Like, what constitutes still being in the NFL? Like, you're still trying to make it into the league? You know, you're still doing workouts?
Yeah, I think retiring is just like you're announcing that you were done playing. Like, whereas like, yeah, some people are done playing just because like no one calls them to come back and play. But usually that's why I think it's funny, because usually someone who retires at the like Jason Kelce, he was still good enough to be a starting player in the National Football League, but he chose to stop playing. That is so like that those kind of players when they retire is usually what you think about, as opposed to guys who just like they couldn't make it on an active roster, they couldn't stay healthy, they weren't good enough, right? You don't hear about those like you don't hear about those guys retiring, they just don't get hired again. So it was really interesting that Julio officially retired when like I didn't know he was still getting hired in the first place.
For sure. I don't know if he's had a job or not, so that would be what your point is. He's saying like you can walk away while you're still getting a job or not. But like I thought this was just had to do with like Hall of Fame and eligibility or whatever, right? Because you have to be retired for a certain amount of years and it has to be declared, and then you want to get in on a certain class. You might think, okay, well in 5 years this person's up for it. I could be a first. So I thought it was all had to do with just like
that's true. That could be part of it, because he thinks he's Hall of Fame bound. So that's fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
it's kind of wild though to think that Julio wouldn't be a first ballot wide receiver. I mean,
maybe he's trying. You don't know. Like you try to be your own personal. Like if I was in his shoes and I was like, you know, dang, if I could be a first ballot, like if I just retire next year, the eligibility is gonna be different because so and so is gonna be a first ballot no matter what, and he's eligible in 5 years. So if I'm eligible in 6 years, I don't have to compete against him on that ballot. I thought that's what was happening for sure. I thought your joke in the text was hilarious for sure, but I was just like, oh yeah.
I just pulled the stats. He was not on a roster last season. So yeah, so I was right. Like he announced his retirement after not having played all last year. Yeah. So
that's a little rough.
And if you look over here, ESPN's latest videos, McAfee congratulating him, and how will Julio Jones impact the Bucs offense is the second most recent video about him. He played for the Bucs in 2022. So, no offense to Julio, but he hasn't been relevant for a minute. That's why it really caught me off guard that he announced his retirement from the NFL.
Yeah, dude. Honestly, the fact that I'm looking at this, I was like, I think he was on the Eagles last year. I didn't even know he played for the Bucs, to be honest. I do remember him signing with the Titans.
I remember the Titans.
This is a walking testimony of you should just retire when you're on top, because he has not been relevant in 5 years. The 2020 season, even then, it wasn't. 9 games, 770 yards. But like, dude, if he just retires a Falcon, the next like 3 teams he's on, he was trash. He was terrible. Like.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can't speak to these because I don't remember them.
Still means something.
But I have to wonder how much Tennessee gave him though, right? Because like you said, 51 catches in 9 games. Like if you extrapolate that out, he was on pace for another 85 catch, 1,000-yard season, which is fine. Like that's a solid season. So I think he was still balling in 2020 till he got hurt. So I don't know what the contract was, and I'm not willing to look it up. But like it's possible Tennessee was offering him enough money that you wanted to keep playing. I get that, right? But yeah, but hey, it's also I'm never going to sit here and tell someone they should hang it up, right? Like if they called me today and asked me to play any professional sport, I'm saying yes.
I'm going to play. Yes.
Yeah,
that's
like
what I'm saying. what I'm trying to tell you, what I was going to say is like, this is so weird being this age now and everything, but like, he's 37. So in 2020, that's 4 or 5 years ago, you're saying that's 30, that means you're 32 years old or 31 years old, and someone's telling you you have to be done with your profession. Like,
Yeah.
no, I'm not done. I'm not done yet. What are you talking about?
Yeah, so
Like,
I'm never going to
yeah,
tell anyone they need to hang it up. That's not for me. That's for them to decide. And again, the reason I'm making fun of this is it was funny to me because I didn't remember him playing, and now that I've looked, and I didn't look this up, but like I'm pleasantly surprised that I was right. He did not play in 2024. So it's funny to me that in 2025 he announces his retirement from football when he didn't play in 2024, right?
but it's yeah. No,
So
it's just fast. Yeah, no, you're 100%. I'm just saying it's fascinating for me that like how many people in their lives, if they work as hard as they do as a pro athlete, with I know they all have God-given talent, but a lot of them work extremely hard. So it's like then by the age of 31 is told you can't do this anymore. Like how many other people in life go through that? Like if you work extremely hard as a kid and all the way through, it's like you and you usually benefit later in life, and like it compounds or whatever, and then you build a whole career and a whole life out of it. How many people work that hard and get to the elite percent of their field and then are told at 32, 31, 34, 35, 36, bye, you can't play anymore, see ya, we're not giving you a job. Like that's really hard. I would not be able to mentally go through something like that in life. So like, but you know what? If he wants to retire when he wants to retire, if someone wants to come out in 5 years and be like, "I'm Antonio Brown and I'm retiring at the age of 47," I'm like, "Good on you, bro. Good job." I'm not getting in the way or
Uh,
carrying at all because none of us could probably like you're the top at your field. Like you're Julio Jones, you're one of the best to ever be a wide receiver, and by 32 years of age, you're like, "Hey, do you want to come play in Tennessee and have 48 targets?" I mean, if I got that many targets in backyard football, I'd be pissed off, let alone in a pro NFL player named Julio Jones who went to Alabama and has been elite. Like, come on, just stop right here. And you're telling me I have to be done and find a new career? I think I'm going to try for the next 4 or 5 years in the NFL, a little bit longer. So it's like, yeah, it's rough. But hey, Julio, I'll admit I drafted, go back in our draft history. I drafted you a couple times. I even drafted Julio in the first round in like 2015. He is not a great fantasy player, so not a
no,
lot
he's
of not
not.
not
He's
a lot of
not.
love not a lot of love
Bro,
lost for Julio in his
no.
retirement from us fantasy
Yeah.
managers. I was
The
more
amount
sad
of
when
the amount of times
yeah.
the amount of times I drafted Julio in the first round of fantasy, especially like I'm like, dude, Julio's available at pick 11.
At
Done.
nine, yeah,
Click
10
it,
done.
enter it. three
I,
seconds on my pick, like Julio in, and then he
I
goes
was
for like 1,800 yards and two touchdowns. You're like, two touchdowns, bro? You have 1,800 yards. He just could never score a touchdown.
even
The guy could rack up yards like everybody's business, but could never find an end zone.
yeah,
I was more
even in
sad as
2015, this is his best season. He had over 200 targets, had 1,900 yards receiving, and still only 8 touches. Whereas a guy like Mike Evans is going to have 60 catches for 1,000 yards and 15 touches.
yeah, I was more sad when Roddy White retired, let alone Julio Jones. Okay, it's just not the fantasy producer we need.
All right, one last
Yeah,
big piece of
1,500,
okay.
1,500 yards and 3 touchdowns. Just getting outscored by TJ Hushmanzada.
The
50
only
yards and
person,
4 tutties. Yeah.
the only person the only person that ever came close to a Julio Jones career is the wide receiver Texan Johnson, Andre Johnson or whatever. Other than that,
Andre Johnson.
there's
Yeah.
no other person like Julio Jones, just like so dominant, so great, but could not hold its value in fantasy. All right, what's up, Alex?
So the one last thing we need to talk about is hockey. We're covering a lot of sports today. For those who don't know, as big news recently, but Alexander Ovechkin passed the Great One as the most prolific goal scorer in the history of the National Hockey League. He was tied with 1 game left, and in that last game he got a goal. So Ovechkin is now the greatest goal scorer in the game. So yeah, I just wanted to give him some props, and I guess ask you guys: do you still think Gretzky is the greatest of all time because Ovechkin's kind of just a goal scorer, or do you think Ovechkin's overtaken him?
Greatest goal scorer, or the greatest hockey player.
Greatest hockey player.
Oh no, it's not even close. It's Gretzky because like if you look at the
Oh
assists,
God, no! It'll be Wayne forever.
yeah, if you look at the assists, he's done the same. He's the most assist leader ever, and it's not even gonna get touched. So Gretzky had the most assists and the most goals in that career. Ovechkin's basically done half of what Gretzky accomplished.
No, I agree. I agree that Gretzky's still the great one, but I do think it is kind of poetic that he scored one more goal than Gretzky in the exact same number of games that Gretzky had in his career. I think that's kind of wild, right?
That is
like that.
Weirdly coincidental.
Yeah, I kind of wish he hadn't, because I kind of wish they were tied, or even he took more games. But that is kind of interesting that that it took the exact same number of games in Gretzky's career, and then he got him. So.
And then the greatest goal scorer also is, I mean, he's obviously earned that title as the number one goal scorer, but like everyone's gonna have their own opinion on that one. It's kind of like greatest QB or whatever. It's not going to go on who has the most championships or the most passing yards. So, you know what I mean? A lot of people are going to put Dan Marino and all that kind of stuff in the conversation. So, like, for me, it's like a lot of like Eric Lindros or Sergei Fedorov. Those were the best scorers. So, yeah, I mean, no, I like Ovechkin. I'm happy for him, but it's just like, I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's awesome, but
yeah,
I don't know how much it puts him ahead of my favorites.
Yeah.
I will say one difference that you can kind of see on this graph is Ovechkin was much more spaced out over his career, whereas Gretzky was much more condensed into a certain period of the career. Like, he had 5 60-goal seasons versus, Ovechkin's one. Things like he had 92 goals in a single season. Ovechkin's most in a season was 65. So Gretzky kind of, I think, is much more like condensed. It's going to be more like a bell curve, whereas Ovechkin's going to be more like a straight line. So consistency maybe versus peak. I think Gretzky had a better peak, whereas Ovechkin might have been more consistent over that time period.
For sure.
But yeah, just wanted to bring up some hockey news. I am a hockey fan as we move into the playoffs. Hockey, there's nothing quite like hockey playoffs. If you guys have never watched it, and I'm not just talking to you, I'm talking to anyone listening. If you've never watched playoff hockey, it's one of the most fun things to watch. Just pick a team from the outset and just ride with them, even though they're not your team, and it's super fun. It's so fun to watch. It's so intense. There's no, other than when there's a TV timeout, there's nothing but action because they're constantly skating, right? It's not like in football where after every play there's a stoppage. It's not like in basketball where, oh man, 5 minutes left in the game, let's start fouling every time they come down the court because we're in the bonus. Even an on the floor foul becomes 1-and-1 free throws. Like no. In hockey, you just play. And if there's a foul, someone gets sent off the ice and they just play with one less guy. Like there's just playing. It's so fun to watch, and the intensity is just super amped up. And obviously everyone wants to win every game, so you end up having goalies get pulled and empty netters and all sorts of crazy stuff. So if you are a sports fan but you've never watched hockey, I cannot stress enough that playoff hockey is the time to watch. Also, if you're a sports fan and you've never been to a hockey game in person, I'm telling you to go. As I've been very blessed in my life. I've gotten to see Lionel Messi play soccer live in a soccer game. I've gotten to see some of the all-time greats, play football games. I got to see, Favre and Randy Moss playing a football game at Lambeau Field. I've gotten to see my Mavericks trash the Lakers with my boy Dirk against Kobe back in the day at the Staples Center. I've been very blessed to see some amazing sporting events. The coolest ones I've seen have been hockey matches when I didn't even know any of the players going into the game. It's just so much fun. You can sit really close for a lot cheaper than you can in other sports. Maybe not during the playoffs, but regular season for sure. If you've never gone to a hockey game, go. You will love it.
I will say, Alex, you forgot we've also been to an NBA Finals game where we watched the Lakers thrash the Orlando Magic while sitting next to... Wait, we saw Jimmy Kimmel in line at the concession stand, and then who was on our row? Who was the guy from all the ESPN television shows? Not Stephen A. Smith. Jay, I can't remember, but
I know you're talking about like bald guy.
Yeah, bald guy.
Yeah.
Man, he was huge back in the day. This is embarrassing. Oh well. Apparently
Yeah,
he wasn't
and there's more stuff too. I mean, look, I was at the comeback in college football, which was amazing to watch. I was at Georgia Tech and watched some college basketball games back when Jarrett Jack and a couple other future NBA guys were there. I can't think of all their names off the top of my head. I'm gonna get Chris Bosh. All those guys were there. It's like I've been very blessed in my life, and thank you to my dad who's helped pay for a lot of those games. and things like that. I've been very blessed in my life to go see a lot of stuff, but hockey is so much fun to watch because the atmosphere. It's the only professional sporting event that feels like the college atmosphere, which is so great. Because one of the best things about college sports is the atmosphere. The fans are wild and into it because the fans are truly passionate. They care. Guys like Vinny care so much about Auburn athletics because he went to Auburn, right? They feel connected to that school. Well, you don't necessarily have that the same way in pro sports. You're for your team, but at the end of the day, they're a corporation, right? Whereas in hockey, it's that tight-knit environment. Even though they're corporations still, the fan atmosphere feels like that college sport atmosphere. So you get to combine the college atmosphere with the level of play of professionals, and you can't beat it.
Yeah. Shameless plug if you ever have the chance to go to Lambeau Field, it's the closest thing that a professional environment outside of hockey has to the college feel. Dude, I'd be a Packer fan just based on the experience I had there. It's a great time.
We can go off on the whole subject. I know we're ending right now, but that 2011 Mavs Lakers series is probably still the most disappointing set of pro sports I've ever been witness or part of. It's worse than the 05 loss to the Pistons. It's worse than the 07 loss to the Celtics. That one was terrible. We were coming off back-to-back championships, working on a three-peat. We beat the Magic the Celtics the year before, the Magic the year before that. We lost in the finals the year before that for the Celtics, so we could have had a three-peat. But this is like the redemption of, where Kobe's going to get his another three-peat, and we get swept. It wasn't even a series. And that series, we had a better team with Ron Artest, Dwight Howard, and I'm pretty sure Steve Nash was on that team. So we had a more loaded roster than the Karl Malone and Gary Payton days of the Lakers. And we got swept by a team that we had beaten for a decade. Like, that was one of the most painful sporting events. But anyways, that's a lot. I know you said the 2011 Mavs beat that's the Jason Terry doing the jet thing and everything. I'll never forget that.
Jason Terry.
It's like literally Dirk Nowitzki and Jason Terry beat one of the most loaded rosters I've ever seen in basketball. Even more loaded than any team LeBron had, more loaded than any team Garnett had, and they just lost. And then obviously next year he tears his Achilles or whatever. But that was painful. That was a sweep.
I'm gonna need to look. I'm all hyped for this hockey thing now. So I need one of you guys to get us tickets to a Golden Knights game. Golden Knights playoff game, and we'll go back to Vegas and run it back. Maybe Mitch will even show up this time. Who knows?
We'll just sit there and wait. We'll just sit there and wait for Mitch. The amount of times I've had to wait for Mitch in Vegas is starting to get
I don't think you've ever had to really.
Maybe we'll get it. Well, we literally did not know if you were coming or not to the Raider game, but that's only from. I feel like I had some misinformation, but Alex can attest to this. We all waited in that bus for my wedding, thinking Mitch did not make it. Mitch didn't make it
for your wedding. I do not remember that.
Well, we had to bus from the hotels in Vegas up to where the wedding was because it was like up kind of in the mountains,
the desert,
Red Rock or whatever.
And we were like waiting, and you came running out of the hotel right as I told the bus driver it's time to go. I watched you come running across the parking lot.
I do not remember that. Was that your wedding?
Yeah, mine.
Okay. Was that like 2013?
Well, it wasn't my wedding, Mitch. You think I secretly 14? Got married and you didn't know? You don't. You were so talented that you don't remember that I got married.
I remember running to a bus at Adam's wedding or whatever, but I was like first on the bus and then got off and then back on, so I'm confusing the two. But Adams was in Arizona, not Vegas. But I do not remember that for some reason. Was that like, what year was that? 2014? 15?
2018. But I'm glad that you think that I've been married to Dakota so long.
Hey, I'm gonna be honest. From like 2014 to 2019, that's a big blur, bro. I've got to be real honest. Actually,
yeah. Meanwhile, he's winning like four fantasy championships in a blur. Screw this guy,
dude. Hockey tickets are so cheap, like compared to other sports. So you can get a ticket and it's an upper section, but like not the top section, but like the upper section for only $174 for a playoff hockey game.
I'm trying to remember now.
That's crazy.
On the bus, wait.
Lower section's only $260
versus $500 for a Raiders Steelers game.
The aforementioned game where I got to see Messi play, I was in an upper level and it was like $500 something bucks a ticket.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Now I'm trying to remember. I remember being on the bus and talking to your mom on the bus. I remember that, and I remember a couple.
Well,
other
you
things.
eventually got on the bus. What he's saying is we almost left you.
Well. It's probably 100% true.
I'm glad the only thing that he remembers is talking to my mom on the bus. That's fun.
Well,
that's like an ultimate.
Because he was trying to find a way to talk you out of getting married, so that he could still have you.
Yeah.
I remember the venue. I remember everything now. I just don't remember. My brain's really good at compartmentalizing me being late.
It's okay. That's actually not even to get off topic, but it's not even the worst thing that the memory of my mom from that wedding. Immediately after I got married, my mom took Dakota aside and said, "I'm really glad that he married you. For a while, I thought he was going to marry Taylor. That is not a."
Taylor's a guy.
Taylor,
for those who don't know.
For those that don't know, Taylor being a name that could go either way. This was not girl Taylor. This was boy Taylor. So, something you don't want said at your wedding is, I really thought my son was going to marry his guy best friend.
Said at your wedding by your mom to your bride.
To your wife. So, wild. But all right.
All right, boys. Well, those are all the topics that I had for today. Does anyone else have any topics they want to discuss while we're here?
No.
No, I think I've run the course of them. Excited that the NFL draft coming up in a couple weeks. Can't wait for that. We'll have some content to discuss.
Is that next Thursday or this Thursday?
I think it's in 2 weeks. In Green Bay. So.
The NFL draft is Thursday the 24th. So yeah, still a couple of weeks from tomorrow.
Oh, I'll make some. Yeah, we can make some fun, good stuff for that one.
Maybe hey, who knows? Maybe next episode we'll do like a mock first round or something. That'll be something new for us. Haven't done before.
Heck yeah.
We could try that out. But
yeah,
might be good for a sleeper league.
Hopefully the Raiders. Yeah, hopefully the Raiders have kicked the trend starting last year. They're actually drafting talent, but if not, I might just mock them with like the 80th ranked offensive guard in the first round, pick 6.
Next week we can talk about how you feel about the Geno Smith contract too.
I know how Alex feels. I don't hate it, but that's okay.
Looks like your picks. Oh yeah, I meant to bring that up. The Geno Smith contract. So for those who don't know, Geno Smith contract and Sam Darnold's contract are now basically identical. They're 3-year, $100 million deals, straight up. Basically, it's the same deal. The same deal. So Seattle, what are you doing? Back to the Seattle, what are you doing?
I actually read that Geno Smith left money on the table in Seattle. Like they offered him a contract extension and he said no. There's some quotes out there that said he just felt unappreciated in Seattle for his contributions.
That's really hard to believe though, to go to the Raiders. Like I might believe that if he went somewhere to compete, but to go to the Raiders where you're going to have no offensive, I mean, like I guess like if Jacoby Myers can stay healthy, you've got Jacoby Myers and you've got our tight end who's so good. Who's Brock. I can't think of his name. I'm thinking Brock Lesnar. No, that's wrong. Brock Bowers. So like you've got a couple of weapons in that, but like not anything compared to the weapons you had offensively in Seattle. So you're getting a downgraded weapon. Maybe he just really liked the coach, right? Maybe he just really liked Pete Carroll. I don't know, but. It's weird to me. It's weird that Seattle basically gave Darnold a 3-year, $100 million deal when they could have, from what we can see, they could have had Geno Smith, who had been their quarterback, who had been a 2-time Pro Bowler over the last 3 years with them for a 3-year, $100 million contract. That's just really weird. Really weird.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me that it also puts them at 15 and 16th. It's like right dab in the middle of paid quarterbacks, 15 and 16 overall. So that's very interesting to me too.
Right,
The
but
one thing yeah, sorry.
if the Raiders gave Geno a lot more money, or the other way around, they gave Darnold a lot more than they were willing to pay Geno, like that would make more sense. But it's really weird if the market says the market basically said these two guys are the same. Why would you, as Seattle, want to go with the guy you don't know versus the guy you did, who was playing well? Like it'd be different if Geno wasn't playing well for them, but he was, right? It'd be like, well, this guy's not playing well, so let's roll the dice on Sam Darnold. It's like, no, you had a guy who was playing well for you, and the money you could have just given to him and kept him, you gave to somebody else. It just doesn't make a lot of sense because we already talked about like why. Because if you believe in Darnold, you would have given him more than 3 years to begin with. So yeah, it's just a weird situation. But anyway,
A question to sign off for, and you can think about. You don't have to give like a really in detail answer if you don't want to. But who has a better rank these three quarterbacks next year as like a better? Just we could do fantasy. Let's just keep it to fantasy. Who has a better fantasy year? Geno Smith, Darnold, or JJ McCarthy?
yeah.
God, that's really tough. The, o-
Rank
the
them
only
1, 2,
issue I have with both Darnold and Geno is that they just don't have weapons. That could change
yeah.
if the
I'm not
Raiders
saying they're
address
all
the
going to be good
need
or
for a wide
bad.
receiver.
Yeah.
I
Sorry,
would
go ahead.
probably
Sorry.
go Geno 1, JJ 2, Darnold 3.
It's rough, huh?
JJ has the potential to easily be the first of that group. I just don't. I don't know anything about him.
I've got
I don't know how
Darnold
good he
1.
is.
I've got Darnold 1 for sure, and then I want to say Geno 2, but because it's a Raider, I'm gonna have to say Geno 3, just because like I've been a Raider fan too long to believe. Um, I don't know if this is out yet. Okay, yeah, it is. So here's what we're seeing as projected by CBS's projections. Let's see, who are we looking for? I keep scrolling here.
Donald Smith
They got
and
Geno at 298 fantasy points, Darnold at 269. I must have missed McCarthy, I guess.
he might be at the very top. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, dude. People are hyped on McCarthy. No, I'm not kidding.
No, I am.
How do you spell it?
JJ
It's
MCCA. I was kidding. I was joking, Alex.
No, I'm aware. Well, it's not. I'm trying to use the find feature, and it's not finding. All right.
Yeah, I'm one of those. I'm one of those people on the hype too, Vinny. I think I have to rank it 1 JJ, 2 Geno, 3 Darnold. But
Oh well, they're projecting him to get 0 because he's still hurt. So okay, that makes sense.
I gave you guys the hypothetical. I think a couple podcasts ago. I was like, is there a world where JJ is better than Darnold's last year?
Here's the thing:
way.
is like, dude, you know how my stance on Kevin O'Connell. I think the dude is a quarterback whisperer, so it's really hard for me to like root against him in any capacity, shape, or form.
Yeah.
I didn't like JJ coming out of college a whole lot, so it's hard for me to sit here and say that I think he's good enough to elevate that offense, just because I thought he was an overrated prospect.
Do you
Fantasy
think
Pros
Bo
has
Nix
them
is
all right
that
next to
much-
each other, although they ironically have Bryce Young better than Darnold, so they're really not high on Darnold if they have Bryce Young above him. But yeah,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't have eye on Darnold either anymore because I'm going to subscribe to the same theory that I've been subscribing to as my philosophy. Is like, so like, what if let's just pretend like, do you think Bo Nix is better than JJ McCarthy?
oh yeah, for sure.
Really?
Yeah,
So, but like, okay, let's just say pretend tomorrow Mahomes didn't exist or whatever, and it's like, JJ McCarthy is going to Andy Reid, like, or just player X is going to Andy Reid, and you're like, I'm not sure about that player, like, but you'd be confident in the situation in the team, right? It's like I'm very much confident in the situation of the team, way over the name on the back of the jersey. Unless it's someone in the league who's proven to like be a rare talent and can throw, you know what I mean, like a Josh Allen when he first came in, or Lamar was kind of obvious after the first 8 games. So unless JJ's one of those guys, all the rest of the QBs are kind of same talent wise. You know what I mean? It comes down to the play caller and the team around them. if you slot, I'm not saying JJ McCarthy's that great of a QB, but his situation seems ideal. So it's like, I don't know. It's tough for me. Obviously, a lot's going to change, and I didn't mean to make this a long-winded answer, but a lot's going to change before drafting next year. But it's just, how can you not be on the JJ hype train right now?
Well, right now. So JJ's last year in college, he completed 72% of his passes for 3,000 yards. Bo Nix completed 77% for 4,500. Right? Yeah, so they're not in the same ballpark.
Yeah, that's tough too. Like, what college did JJ went to?
JJ went to Michigan.
Right? Yeah, that's tough.
And Bo went to Oregon.
Yeah, that's why I guess I'm willing to do upside. I guess it's like the upside for him is just so much higher than Smith or Darnold, in my opinion. That's all I guess I'm trying to say. But I guess his floor could be a lot lower. Yeah.
How'd they doing? Not that this is at all relevant anymore, but just out of curiosity, let's see what their senior year in college looked like. So yeah, Geno 71% passer rating, 4,200 yards, and then, but worth noting that was at West Virginia, so not quite the same level of play necessarily.
Yeah, it's tough.
Darnold, yeah, 4,100 passing yards. Only worst percentage-wise. His completion percentage is worse, but yeah, they're all slinging the rock a lot better than JJ as far as output, as far as yardage output is concerned.
Here's my question: let's say Darnold doesn't get the year that he had with the Vikings, and they just started McCarthy. Does McCarthy have the same year as Darnold or not? And two, is Darnold even have an opportunity in the NFL to go be the QB for the Seahawks?
I'm going to say no and no. So I think, while I do think Darnold benefited from the offensive scheme and the weapons around him, you have to give credit where credit's due. I think he played really well. Okay. Obviously, he choked on the stretch, but like for the majority of the season, I think he had a special season, and that wasn't just he's a game manager in a good spot. He actually played quality football, and you have to give him credit for that. That being said, had McCarthy not gotten hurt and McCarthy been the starter and Darnold just been the backup, then no, I don't think Darnold ever gets his chance.
I'm nervous the narrative is McCarthy was always going to be the starter last year until he got hurt, and then McConnell was like, I got to go actually find a starting quarterback because I don't think McCarthy's going to be ready for me this season. And he goes out and finds Darnold that makes him a star. That's what I'm nervous. The actual narrative is not that like, oh, he rebirthed Darnold's career, what it should have been with the right coaching, right staff. I'm actually believing that McConnell made a shitty QB, or sorry, excuse my language, a terrible QB actually really good. So it's like if
he might have, but part of that's development, right? So like one of the reasons that there's so many flops now is because used to quarterbacks would get drafted and they would sit behind somebody and learn the game and then come in and play. Perfect example is Aaron Rodgers did not play until his fourth NFL season, right? Yeah. Whereas now there's so much pressure if you're a high pick to come in and play right away. A lot of them don't pan out. Now some of them do, but a lot of them don't. Patrick Mahomes, he rode the bench his first year behind Alex Smith because he was a later first-round pick. He wasn't at the top of the board. Whereas some of these guys, like Sam Darnold, wasn't ready. Like he only played 2 years in college, right? So he had 2 years of college football. Then he's thrust into being a starter in the NFL on a bad football team. Because when you're drafted in the first 10 picks, you're on a bad football team, right? Yeah. You don't have the opportunity to develop because you're running for your life because you have a bad O-line or you have bad offensive weapons or you have bad coaching, you have bad front office, whatever it is. Like, you're put in a bad position and you have to use basically raw talent to overcome it. And there are very few people who have that much raw talent that they can overcome it. Whereas when you look at the guys who had a chance to sit and develop, even if they weren't as talented initially, they've been able to rise up. Guys like Jordan Love, like I've made the Toyotathon jokes ever since I heard that stat, but like Jordan Love got to sit and then become a starter, and he's played well. Mahomes got to sit, then become a starter, and he played well. Rodgers got to sit, become a starter, and play well. That's not what I'm saying, but I'm saying
I know
some of these guys that got an opportunity to develop then were able to play better, whereas some of these guys who were thrust into it right away, they didn't work out and they got tossed away. Geno Smith is a great example. Geno Smith needed time to develop. He wasn't given that. So when he came in and didn't play well for the Jets, who were just a garbage franchise, he was tossed to the wayside until he had a chance to prove himself with a much more player-friendly coach out in Seattle when he first had Pete Carroll, and that's where he was able to blossom and flourish and develop. Because he had a guy who developed it.
Let me just give you a hypothetical then. This is where my logic is very, because I'm always trying to think. So, like, let's pretend McCarthy didn't get hurt last year and they don't go out and get Darnold, and McCarthy plays the whole year. Does McCarthy have a somewhat good year? I'm not saying he has as good of a year as Darnold, but basically he was only hurt in the beginning of the season. Darnold played so well in November that they didn't want to bench Darnold because you had a real opportunity here of going far in the playoffs. So McCarthy's taken that year to develop. The same year, hypothetically, that if he didn't get hurt, he would have played all year. Yes or no, right? Like, if he doesn't get hurt...
I mean, he didn't practice.
I
don't think he developed all that much this year.
So you're not saying... So this year was like a dead year for McCarthy, basically. He's back to where he was last year starting the season.
Yeah, dude has zero on-field experience. So what? He knows the playbook a little bit better. I don't think he understands the pace of the game any better. I think he's going to be a true rookie, just a rookie who was able to absorb that franchise at an accelerated rate. Like, there's definitely an advantage, but man, dude, I think you got to get on the field and process everything, and before you can actually be good.
There's a difference in actually like being a part of, like, even if you're not playing in the games, you're still like you're playing in practice. You're getting reps with the offense and the defense. Playing against defenders. You're learning the playbook. You're on the sidelines. You're not just rehabbing, right? So, like, I think there's a difference in the development that you get.
Wait, true. He was there for half. Yeah.
Right, but for half the season you're not playing at all. So for half that season you're regressing, right? Because like you regress when you don't play, right? So he had half a season to regress, and then half a season maybe to get back to where he was. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
With the recovery versus a guy who rode the bench the whole time, not because of injury, but just because that was the plan for him. Got to be there from day one, learning and developing and playing and building the skills.
Then this is perfect. The last thing I'll say is, let's say he uses this year to have his 5-6 games in the season to learn, like you guys are saying, like Vinny, like that's not, you can't substitute that. Like, I get that. Okay. So then where is Darnold? Let's pretend we're a year ahead from now, next summer. Not this next year's already gone by and we're a year ahead from now where we are. Where is McCarthy being drafted amongst the QBs? So, like, let's say he didn't get hurt last year and he had his little progression period and the Vikings did okay, but they weren't world beaters without Darnold. They weren't like a top playoff team or whatever. They just were a good, 500 team with McCarthy. Where does he get drafted the next year? So, like, after this year, he has his growing pains of like 4 or 5 games. You get what I'm trying to say? And he becomes an okay QB, because he sat for a little bit. He goes through the year of learning. So next year he's going to have a massive jump. Well, this next year. That's what I'm saying.
It's there's no guarantees, right? Like you don't.
Right.
We don't know because he's a rookie. We don't know about him. Like my instinct would be no, just because he doesn't have the stats in college, like to do that, right? Like he only played 3 years in college, and he was fine. He wasn't great. He was fine. Whereas some of these other guys come out of college and they were great college athletes, but they need more time to develop. So. Yeah, him having this time to develop is great, but like I don't know that he's that good to begin with. So like,
for sure,
you're not starting on the same playing field. Like I showed you all the stats, right? We just looked at the college stats for Darnold, Geno Smith, and Bo Nix. They dwarf JJ McCarthy. Now again, college and NFL are two very different monsters, right? When you look at guys like Drew Brees, like who played for Purdue, that's not a big college football school, and he's a Hall of Famer, right? So I understand that doesn't mean everything. But I'm just saying that based on what we have seen, and the only thing we have seen that we can legitimately compare is their time in college, because I can't compare McCarthy to these guys in the pros because he hasn't played in the pros yet. In college, they were much better players than him. So it's hard for me to say that he's going to come in on the same level that they are when they were much better players than him in college.
Yeah, that's why it's interesting with the Bo Nix thing, is because it's like he can,
Bo Nix was a 5-year college player though, so he had 5 years starting in college, including 3 years in the SEC, which is brutal to play through, and then the last year that he was 2 years at Oregon, but the last year at Oregon where he was competing for a national championship. I mean, they didn't win it, but like they were in college football playoff and all that jazz. So.
Not to extend this too long, because I know we're way over time, but that's okay.
We haven't had an episode in 3 weeks. If people stop listening, that's on them, right? They're missing great content.
this is something, and I relate this to fantasy and dynasty football. I was asking about somebody's thoughts on JJ McCarthy, and somebody put this perspective pretty well. Is Caleb Williams was the unanimous number one pick. Yeah, he wasn't great, but he showed some flashes of great, some great games. And let's just assume that he, ends up. He doesn't necessarily need to be a superstar, but let's just say he ends up being average. Here's your quarterbacks taken in the 2024 NFL Draft: Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, Michael Penix, J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix. Bo Nix, excellent. Michael Penix, in like the few games that he was a starter, did very well. Drake May looks like a future superstar. Jaden Daniels looks like a future superstar. Caleb Williams looks average. Tell me a single NFL draft in which you have 5 quarterbacks hit in the
So you're
first
saying
15
he has
picks.
to be bad because of the ratio?
Dude, he has to be bad. He has to. Somebody said that, and they were like, dude, somebody has to bust from this class, or else it's a generational QB draft class.
He's still the
and I was
youngest
like,
player in the NFL, which is crazy.
and I was like, I'm trading JJ quick. Like you just don't get generational draft classes like that. Now maybe other people fall off, but I'm taking the one guy that I haven't seen to be the bust. Somebody has to be a bust. I think Alex would vote Caleb Williams, but it wasn't the worst rookie year of all time. Like, it was still better than Bryce Young's rookie year by far.
That's
right?
not a high bar, but sure.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, he didn't quite hit that like bona fide bust status. Somebody has to bust. Somebody has to be the Darnold. Somebody has to be the Zach Wilson. Somebody has to be the Josh
I
Rosen.
agree with you. If half those QBs
right.
weren't like already 24, 25 years old coming into the league, that's I think the difference. That draft class has like a couple extra QBs come in that are 24, where most like McCarthy is the normal. Like you get drafted, you're really young. McCarthy's so young, he's still the youngest player in the NFL after the last couple of years. He might get passed in this upcoming draft by like a handful of players because the draft's coming up. But in the last couple of years, he's been the youngest player in the NFL for a couple of consecutive years. That's wild to think about how young he is. So I think that you're right, Vinny. There might have to be a bust with the ratios, but I think this draft class is different because you have 2 or 3 QBs in that class that are 24 years old coming in. That's a little different. Like Jaden Daniels is not a child. He's 24 or 25 already. So I think that might be skewing it. But you know what? Maybe it's Penix. Maybe Penix is the bust. The verdict is still out for him. All he did was run around a lot, so we'll see. I do like Drake May. Drake May looks pretty good, actually. I'll give you that.
I will point out that of
Drake
all the quarterbacks,
looks great.
Of all the quarterbacks listed, you want to know which one had the worst QBR by far?
Caleb.
Caleb Williams.
Caleb Williams.
He might still be.
Come on, did you really think?
Time out. If Caleb can't have a good year next year,
if you know Alex is pulling something like that, it's to argue his point.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. Is like with that Bears team. I said this in a podcast like a month or two ago. It's like that Bears is going to be probably the death of me of this upcoming fantasy season because I don't know who to trust, who I can't trust. It's got a recipe for success. If Caleb can't, basically what I'm trying to say is if Caleb, like what I said last year about the tight end for Atlanta, what's his name? If you can't produce last year under those circumstances, I'm never drafting you ever. If you can't produce, if Caleb can't produce this year coming up with Ben Johnson and that roster and that team and everything they've done for him, you just can't produce in the NFL. I'm sorry. I don't care if you're too young and you haven't developed yet. Like you're never going to have a better situation than that. Like, so yeah, we'll see. We'll see on that QB class. I think it's only been way too early, but it'd be really funny if J.J. McCarthy is the best one of that class.
I mean, the Vikings sure wouldn't complain.
Yeah.
All right.
No, I don't know. I'm probably drinking too much.
Here's the thing is, yeah. I mean, I didn't think he was that good coming out of college. I guess, if he was that good, like, why did Jim Harbaugh just choose to not use him that much? It's just kind of weird. Like, you're a national champion quarterback, but yet, you only threw the ball 20 times a game max. It's just, I don't know. That just doesn't scream superstar to me. But hey, when you're throwing to Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson and Kevin O'Connell as your head coach,
take away the name.
Anything is possible.
Right.
That's my thing.
I still think.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, that's it.
Yeah, that's my whole hang up too. Is like when you look at Alabama and all of the championships and games they've won, the majority of their quarterbacks during their not the last two, not Jalen and Tua, but prior to that, all the other quarterbacks during Saban's run, guys like Greg McElroy and all those guys, they were game managers. They weren't asked to throw the ball a ton of times. They had great defenses and they ran the ball. And even though Alabama had some of the best wide receivers there are, because look how many former Alabama players are balling in the NFL right now. We talked about Julio Jones retiring, but even with him retiring, there's still Calvin Ridley and Jerry Jeudy and Devonta Smith and Jalen Waddle, like all these Alabama receivers. So they had all these great weapons, but they still, hey, I only need my quarterback to throw it 15 to 20 times a game. Why? Because those guys weren't NFL caliber quarterbacks. None of them went pro. None of them did well in the pros. They went pro. None of them did well in the pros. Some were perennial backups. Some didn't even last as backups. That's kind of how I feel about McCarthy. Michigan had a great defense. They had a good running game. And even though they had some good weapons offensively, they didn't ask JJ to win. They asked him to be a game manager. And if you're asking the guy to be a game manager, he's probably not a baller. Now, I do think some people are asked to do too much, which is why they don't look as good as they should and maybe struggle. Like Bo Nix was asked to do too much at Auburn, which is why he struggled at Auburn but did much better at Oregon and in the NFL because he wasn't asked to do as much. But this is the opposite. They're not asking JJ to do anything, and so maybe he's got a little more gas in the tank than he gives him credit for. But like you said, that scares me when you've got a coach of the caliber as Harbaugh who's saying, "No, man, why don't you just game manage for us?"
Yeah, I agree. Hey, and listen, nobody said that Kevin O'Connell is a talent evaluator. Like, the dude took Darnold on a 1-year, $10 million contract and turned him into a Pro Bowler. I think he just does really well with what he has. They drafted from a point of necessity because they had Darnold on the roster. They just lost Kirk Cousins. I don't necessarily think that he's, it's not his job to, like, that's definitely not his guy. If you gave him a choice of like the 5 quarterbacks that were drafted, do you think he was like, oh yeah, dude, JJ McCarthy's the guy I want, or JJ McCarthy's the guy that I want at pick 11 and they traded up to 10 to like not lose out on him because he was the last available? You know what I mean? So
they did trade out, yeah. Well, okay, then my last, I guess, I said this would be quick, whatever, and we kept going, but the last thing I'll say is, then who on the Vikings stats get hurt? Like, are you still projecting JJ with the same stats? Are you still projecting, oh my gosh, the tight end, what's his name? What's the tight end's name on the Vikings?
Oh, Hawkinson,
yeah. And then the last one, the wide receiver that I had on my fantasy team most year that I like. So who's getting affected here? Like, they can't all have the same numbers as Darnold and then McCarthy. Like, if they're all going to have the same numbers that they had under Darnold, I'm just going to take McCarthy in the 8th round and give me the championship. Because, like, I could have, if I didn't have Josh Allen this last year, I would have 100% grabbed Darnold by week 1 or week 2. I was on the Darnold hype train before the season even started. So you could take that to the bank. I would have grabbed Darnold off waivers. He would have not floated between Matt Black and Luis's team all year, allowing that division to pick up some wins with, like, the number 4 fantasy QB off waivers. So I would have grabbed them. So what I'm saying right now is, if McCarthy's going to have the same year as Darnold, he's going to go in the 10th, 11th round. I'll take him in the 10th round. Give me a championship. It's like, who's going to have bad stats? Who's getting hurt? The running game's not going to be the same. The Justin Jefferson's going to have to drop lower in the draft. The other wide receiver, what's his name, cannot be going in the 3rd round or whatever he's projected in the ADP right now.
Sure, I'll answer the questions that you're asking. I think there's going to be 2 people that take the biggest hits. One, I think yes, the running game. As much as it cost me the fantasy playoffs by not starting the right running back, I definitely should have gone with Aaron Jones. I'm all about freeing Aaron Jones. I think he's a good player. I think having not a rookie, but for all intents and purposes, a rookie QB is going to allow teams to stack the box more. So I do think that's going to hurt Aaron Jones' as value. And I think Addison being the wide receiver too, it's going to hurt his value as well, because Jefferson's going to get his because he's just that good. If you throw the ball within 5 feet of him, he's going to catch it. So McCarthy doesn't have to be great. He will force feed his best player because that's what rookies do when they're scared. Like when we play backyard football and I have to have a first down, if Vinny's on my team, I'm probably throwing it to Vinny. That's not shade at anyone else. It's just he and I have the best rapport out there. Well, assuming this guy has the best rapport with JJ because JJ's his best receiver, that's who he's going to focus on. So JJ will get his, but I think guys like Addison are going to be left to the wayside because they aren't going to get force-fed the ball. And so if McCarthy isn't a stud the way Darnold was, he's the one who's going to fall off. I think it's going to be Addison, and I think it's going to be the running game because people are stacking the box.
Yeah, because the Vikings had a lot of fantasy value last year. The Jones, Addison, Hawkinson, and JJ. So basically, we're saying in the this upcoming season, the fantasy value is just going to be JJ. That's it, right? The Vikings have no more fantasy value?
It's not that there won't be any value. It's just it's not going to be as high. Where did Aaron Jones finish last year? So Aaron Jones last year, I don't know.
He didn't play a lot, yeah. 14th or whatever.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. The point being, like, Aaron Jones finished as a top 20 running back. He might be more of a top 30 running back is the point that I'm getting at, right? That's the point that I'm making.
So everyone's going to take like a 10, 20, 15% hit.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, yeah, because you're gonna have less stats, right? Because at the end of the day, if we look at Darnold's stats, right? Darnold threw for 4,300 yards and 35 touchdowns. If we don't think that JJ is going to do that, which I don't think he is, I think he's going to be more in the 3,500 yard, 25 touchdown range. Well, those yards and TDs got to come from somewhere, and they're not all going to come from the same person. So yeah, I think it's going to be across the board.
Yeah,
I still think there will be fantasy value in guys like JJ and Aaron Jones, just not as much as there was this year. And I think the ones taking the biggest hit will be the secondary, tertiary guys like an Addison.
But you're saying there's fantasy value, but I want the value for my pick. So if I'm taking, Justin Jefferson in the first round, I need first round value or whatever. I can't have, they're good, but they're not as good as they were last year. So basically, the Vikings players are all going to be overdrafted this upcoming season.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I mean, potentially, but honestly, just look at these wide receivers and tell me or besides Jamar Chase, which one of these are you sold on, right? Like, so Justin Jefferson is a new QB. Amon-Ra St. Brown doesn't score touchdowns. He scored 12 last year, but he doesn't normally score that many touchdowns. But also he's got a new offensive coordinator. What the hell are the Jaguars doing? There's just no telling what's going on with them. Like Brian Thomas had you had him, Vinny, wasn't it 30 point one week and then 1 point the next? Wasn't he one of those kind of players?
He did pretty good actually from a consistency standpoint. He was surprisingly consistent. It was like
wide receiver list is terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Terry McLaurin, a lot of this value is on 13 TDs. I don't think he's going to score 13 TDs again. Towards the end of the year, there were a couple other wide receivers that were making big impacts on the game for Washington, and they just went and got Deebo Samuel. So while I still think Terry McLaurin is a good player, I don't know that he's going to be a 13 TD guy. And if he falls back down to a 1,000-yard, 6 TD guy, he's not in this echelon. Drake London has a new quarterback. Mike Evans is only getting older. Love Mike Evans, you know that, but he's only getting older. I think Malik's legit. I'm not as worried about him, but he will also have a new quarterback. Cortland Sutton, I hope this is legit, but this is his first year with Bo. He hadn't been up here in a while.
Is Cortland Sutton going to be a second-round pick? That's crazy.
That's when you look at this list. Are you like, yeah, Cortland Sutton? He's a top 10 wide receiver for you. Like, is that what you think when you look at this list? That's the point that I'm making. Like, I'm not saying I don't want any of these people. I'm just saying when I look at this list, other than Jamar Windmill Slam first pick, right? I'm not worried about him. But when I look at every single other guy on this list, I'm not so honestly going all the way down through all these guys. To be honest with you, none of and here's Jordan Addison that we're talking about. None of these guys I'm super yes, this is a set it and forget it type player this year that I'm happy windmill slamming in the first or second round the way I would have been previously. I'm not saying none of these are going to work out. Obviously, many of these guys will hit, but I'm just saying when you look at this list, I think we can all agree there's going to be at least a couple of these guys who fall off a cliff because of the changes, and you don't want to be the one that drafts one of them. And it's very hard because it's very hard to look at this and know which ones are the for sure things.
You can't really know, yeah. That's impossible.
Because going into the season, going into last season, I think we all would have been like, Jamar Chase, sure, we'll draft that. Justin Jefferson, sure, we'll draft that. Amon-Ra, sure. But then Brian Thomas, that's a rookie. None of us were super high on him as an early pick. Definitely none of us were high on Terry McLaurin as an early pick. I was a big London guy because of Cousins, but most people weren't. Evans older and older, and he had been hurt the year before. Malik was a rookie. Courtland Sutton definitely wasn't on anyone's list. I know a guy that took CeeDee Lamb in the first round and it cost him dearly. Oh yeah, that was me. Lad McConkey was a rookie.
You shouldn't do that again.
Devontae Adams was on a.
Should let CeeDee fall.
Devontae Adams was on two different teams to start the last season. Jameson Williams was wide receiver too. Like none of these guys are guys that you came into the draft last year saying I'm drafting that guy in the second round as my wide receiver one.
Yeah, and 2 of the top 5 guys have only gotten like around 10 or later. So
right, but I'm saying other than these 3, I don't think besides these 3, and then CD down here, the rest of these guys on this list, none of you guys were like, I'm taking him in the second round as my wide receiver one.
For sure.
That's the point that I'm making.
Yeah. Listen, I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is a great pick in any fantasy league. But let me tell you, I watched so many games. Dude, they force-fed him touchdowns at the end of the game and like blowout wins.
That's why
just to get him points, and I just don't think that's going to continue to happen. Like, dude, Amon-Ra was such a frustrating player to have in fantasy. He would have like 3 points going into the fourth quarter regularly in non-PPR leagues, and all of a sudden end up with 12. And I don't know. I just don't love that type of production. Yeah, this is a really bad list. Like, there's no way that you feel comfortable taking. I mean, okay, let's
and with this, like you said, and with this being non-PPR, like Amon-Ra's value is much higher in a PPR league than a non-PPR.
For sure.
So
what in our league? Let's just go in our league, non-PPR. What do we normally draft? Like 6 wide receivers in the first 2 rounds?
I think it's
8?
less.
Let's find out.
Well, we had like 4 last year, right? I know I got AJ Brown.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There were 9 taken. But let's look at who those 9 were, right? So CeeDee Lamb, that was a bust, but because his quarterback got hurt, not because of CD. So that was a bust, but not because of his fault. Tyreek Hill was a bust. I was on that from the start. You shouldn't have drafted Hill, but someone did. Amon-Ra, that worked out. Jamar Chase, obviously that worked out. Jefferson worked out. AJ Brown, I mean, based on where he finished, I would say wasn't probably. This says wide receiver 9. That's not right. We just looked at the list, right? He was not.
How many wide receivers went above Justin?
Garrett Wilson, Puka, but he got hurt. So like, Debo was a horrible pick. Like, I don't know, just a lot of guys here. Above who? Above Jefferson?
God,
this is what bothers me.
This makes me so angry that I almost took Jamar Chase over Jalen Hurts.
Well, before you go into rant, Mitch, I want to point out only 4 wide receivers went above Justin Jefferson. 2 of them, Jamar Chase and Amon-Ra, are right next to him. Jamar beat him. Amon-Ra was right below him. So those are all fine. I would argue that CeeDee Lamb is fine going above Jefferson. I got unlucky with that pick, but the only one that's really like, I don't know, all 3 of those really make sense to go above him. The only one that I think was egregious was Tyreek Hill.
Sure, but like even CD, Tyreek, and like so like Justin Jefferson goes from Cousins to Darnold, and everyone's like that's a step down in QB. That's why he fell out of the top 2 drafted and fell like the second round in a lot of leagues. Justin Jefferson. So it's like, okay, well, if the step down from Cousins to Darnold affects Jefferson to fall, then everyone thinks the step down from Darnold to McCarthy. Why is Justin Jefferson going back up the other way? That's like that doesn't make. That's what I'm saying. It's like last year everyone's like
he wasn't in the discussion we just had. Like maybe like on people's draft board. Well, but it's because of what we just looked at. So it's because of what we just talked about, right? Because when you look at this list of who performed well last year, it's easier for me to believe in Justin Jefferson being good with a new quarterback than it is for me to believe in Terry McLaurin being good.
And Tyreek Hill is better than Tyreek Hill. It's better for you to believe that Justin Jefferson is going to be better with a new quarterback than Tyreek Hill will be with the same quarterback. A year ago, he was the league leading in yards and the number 1 offense.
Well, who said anything that Tyreek Hill is back in that discussion?
Well, that's what I'm saying is everyone's going to put I'm putting Tyreek Hill back in that discussion. Everyone's going to be more comfortable this year. Last year, okay, let me start over. Last year, everyone took Tyreek Hill above Justin Jefferson because he came off a great year, top offense, had whether or not you called it or not, correct, Alex? I'm just saying the year before that he had was a great year with
because he returned to the same team, the same coach, the same quarterback, the same everything.
So then Justin Jefferson did not return to the same situation. He fell from Cousins to Darnold, and so he dropped in the thing.
Right.
How is Tyreek Hill dropping this year as opposed to Justin Jefferson climbing?
Because Tyreek Hill got hurt. Tyreek Hill is unhappy and making drama, and because no one believes that Tua can stay healthy. Tua is a great quarterback when he is healthy. The problem is no one believes he can stay healthy. He just can't. Some people's bodies aren't meant to play. Peyton Manning and Eli have both gone on record saying that their brother Cooper Manning was the better athlete. It's hard for me to believe that two NFL Hall of Fame quarterbacks who've won multiple Super Bowls had a brother who was better than them, but they've both said that. But because of the bone disease that he had, he couldn't play football.
Yeah.
Tua's body just isn't meant for this sport, and that's unfortunate because he's so good at it. But no one believes he can stay healthy, and if he can't stay healthy, then look, we saw what happened. Anyone that had Tyreek Hill on a roster last year, anyone who maybe blew part of their budget on him instead of keeping Derrick Henry in a keeper league, not going to name names, Alex, you bastard, knows how painful it was having Tyreek Hill on your team because he did nothing with those other quarterbacks.
Yeah. Also, food for thought real quick. Drake London, kind of the same. So Drake London is opposed to, he's like, I got Cousins now, so his draft value rise. Now he's lost Cousins and he has Penix, and his draft value is still rising. It's like, I don't understand how the logic applies to some of these wide receivers and for
the record, Jefferson did average more fantasy points per game with Cousins than he did with Darnold. Just FYI. The last 3 years with Cousins, he averaged more fantasy points per game.
Oh, dang, yeah.
Than Darnold.
So maybe Justin Jefferson can have an increase in volume with JJ just force feeding him and the Vikings be worse off. I guess they could exist. I'm under the impression that it's not going to be the Vikings are going to be a worse team, but Justin Jefferson has better stats. That's hard for me to get on board with because a lot of these wide receivers.
Well, I don't know who's you keep I'm guessing you're referencing places you've been reading. So I don't think I haven't heard Vinny say that, and I know I'm not saying it. I think there's going to be another step down. If you look, like I said, if you look at his last 3 seasons, there was a step down in this one not a step down in targets because he played the 7 left games. He was hurt, right? But there was
he's going to have a step down
in targets,
higher.
Step down in receptions, step down in yards, step down in average yards per catch, step down in average fantasy points. There was a step down between Cousins and Darnold, and I think there's going to be a step down from Darnold to McCarthy. But a step down from 100 catches and 1,500 yards, if that means he has 90 catches and 1,350 yards, that's still a quality season.
I agree with everything you're saying, but then what doesn't make sense to me is why is Justin Jefferson going to be the number 1 or 2 wide receiver off the board when last year he was a second-round pick? If he's going to have another step down again, why is his draft value going up?
Because as we've talked about, you can't win your league in the first round, but you can lose it, right? The middle rounds is where you make your bread and butter. Like you pointed out, Vinny was able to get guys like Brian Thomas Jr. and what did you get him? The 7th round, Vinny? Somewhere pretty late.
It was 10 and 12.
Yeah.
10 and 12, I think.
So you win your league in the later rounds. So not that he won the league, but he won the Super Bowl. You win the league in the later rounds, but you can lose them early. So your early picks, you really want to pick guys you know are going to be safe. And when we look at this list right now of these are the guys, this is last year's list. If you look at where people finished last year in fantasy football, if I'm looking at this list and let's look at the top 10. If I have to pick out of this top 10 list of wide receivers, most people are going to have more faith in these 3 guys because they've done it before. Sure. And Amon-Ra's done it and he has the same quarterback. Jamar Chase has done it and he has the same quarterback. Justin Jefferson has done it and he's done it with 2 different quarterbacks than they are going to be with Brian Thomas Jr. He was a rookie last year. We don't know what's going to happen. Terry McLaurin has more competition now. Drake London has never done it before last year. He's always been a good player. I've always said he was a good player, but he's never been a top 10 fantasy wide receiver until last year, and now he's got a new quarterback.
They're comfortable with Justin Jefferson. Someone's going to take him higher up. I get it.
Right, it is a safer pick. That is why he's moving up the board, because when you look at the guys who are there, he's a safer pick.
Then all the Vikings players are going to be overdrafted next year.
Potentially,
I agree with that.
But I don't. Yeah. But again, I don't know if it's overdrafted because if you take Justin Jefferson to be the wide receiver 2, and if he finishes as the wide receiver 7, that's still a wide receiver 1 overall. You're still
for sure.
You're still okay with that. Whereas if you're like, hey, I'm taking Drake London to be a top 5 fantasy wide receiver, and with his new quarterback, Drake London falls back down to being a top 18 wide receiver. That's a wide receiver 2, not a wide receiver 1, and now you've screwed the pooch. Right? So I think it's just a matter of sometimes you have to make the safer picks early in order to be quality. Now that's not necessarily going to win you your league. Sometimes you have to take the home run shot, But a lot of times the safe picks early and then the home run balls in the middle of the late rounds is where you win. Like, my best wide receiver on my team ended up being Mike Evans, who I got a lot later than CeeDee Lamb that I took in the first round, right?
Yeah, my best wide receiver was 10th round Godwin. So yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
So basically, we're trying to early realizing I just don't know if I'm going to go wide receiver in the first 4 rounds of next year's draft in non PPR leagues. I don't know if it's worth the pick.
I mean, it's all about hitting, right? Because like if we go to
Right.
if
That's
we go to
true.
the previous
If you like
previous
if you have a
season,
really good feeling about like Neighbors or Nakua or someone, right?
yeah, because if we go to the previous season, Tyreek Hill and DJ Moore
so
and
angry.
Puka Nakua and AJ Brown and Nico Collins and Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk and Keenan Allen, Stephon Diggs, none of these guys were there last year in the top 10, and of these guys, Stephon Diggs is not going to be there. Keenan Allen's not going to be there. Brandon Ayuk maybe. Deebo Samuel's not going to be there with a new team. Yeah. Like Nico probably will be. Like Puka probably will be. Like Puka DJ Moore's not going to be there. So like you know what I mean. Like there's change year over year. You know what I mean? Look at Jamar Chase had 158 fantasy points last year or 2 years ago, and then this past season it was 267.
Basically, if you're listening to this podcast and you're going into fantasy looking at wide receivers, take the guy you want. Don't look at the rankings.
I wonder who that's targeted at.
Actually, no. Look at the rankings. I take it back. Depending on who I'm drafting next to, don't listen to me. Look at the rankings. I don't know what I'm talking.
So much shade to Alex. Or
I don't know.
I mean, you could say that. You could say the same thing on that front. Like I didn't want Marvin Harrison Jr. and I drafted him because I was like, dude, obviously all these people have to have something like going. Like why is he like the 10th ranked wide receiver? And I was like, all right, steal. Dude, I can't believe I made the finals going Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Marvin Harrison. Like that's banana land. But anyways,
yeah.
All right,
I agree.
We're gonna wrap it up for real now, though, guys. Sorry to cut you off, but we were gonna wrap it up 30 minutes ago, so it's now a 2-hour episode. So we're gonna wrap it up. Thanks so much, everyone, for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Any final thoughts, boys? And they have to be actual final thoughts this time.
Oh, it was good. Good times.
Actually, you know what I was thinking is we should discuss wrapping this thing up. So,
All right. See you, everybody. We're out.
See ya.
See ya.